2 minutes. Please state your name and
stand up
and where you're from.
Oh, go ahead, Patty. Okay.
Patty Acton.
Before age.
Patty Acton, 31 years in Acton.
Please.
Oh,
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm supposed to speak now?
Yes.
Well, I have to face everybody.
Yeah, you're welcome to stand either where you are or
Okay.
wherever you like.
All right. As I said, I've lived here for 31 years, and I've loved it. And for 30 plus years, I've been totally grateful to the Acton Town Council for what they've done for us to protect our rural lifestyle and have helped us to not have marijuana dispensaries and keep to the community standards and the things that are really important in keeping our community rural. So I know a lot of other people are going to have things to say about this particular subject of thrive.org, wanting to build special communities here. I just want to say I'm grateful to you, and I hope you will continue to protect us from this issue as well. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Marshall. I'm a resident of Acton for 23 years. My dream since a little girl was to live on a ranch with my horses. This dream came true. We bought our home 34 years. We bought our home when I was in my year of 30. When I was 34 years old. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Okay. I've already rehearsed this, but anyway, sorry. Okay. I'm here to voice my thoughts about the proposed private project Thrive LA Tiny Homes and changing the landscape of our town forever. I would not want anything to compromise Acton and our little town ways. I go to Skid Row once a week, 6th and Wall Street. I arrive at 5 a.m. Usually I have some sort of personal encounter with homes in downtown. I would be happy to answer any questions about their tiny homes and what I see personally, and if they can seriously integrate it into our community. The security downtown says it's their choice living on the streets because many are addicts/alcoholics, also mentally ill. So sad, but this is a reality. It would be really sad for our reality to come to this town. We already have tiny homes ran by the County of Los Angeles. It's called Acton Rehab for Addicts and Alcoholics. The proposed tiny home project would change our town forever.
I don't want to surprise you, Jack.
Oh dear. I have enough gray hair.
I'm going to use this. That means that this will be up on the internet tomorrow. Hey everybody, I'm Ken Fallscraft. I'm a board member, but I'm not here to speak about what the school board feels. I handed that off to Jackie because Jackie, I appreciate the time that you come up to the microphone and talk to us as a school board about things that could affect us in the community, especially our youth. I better stick to the script here. As part of my day job as a municipal arborist and program manager, I have been involved to some degree in the Urban Forest Master Plan update for the city of Los Angeles, and that is an important part of Mayor Garcetti's overall Green New Deal policy. I recently attended the monthly meeting of the Westside Urban Forum on July 18th. These monthly meetings are filled with architects, planners, and green types that discuss land use and livability in the greater Los Angeles area. Controversial topics are usually not avoided by this group. This meeting was about specifically LA City's Green Deal policy initiatives and the practicality on whether or not they are achievable and sustainable. The panel consisted of a moderator and 3 experts, including a planner, architect with a focus on large-scale public transportation, a new member of the LADWP, the governing board, and she also comes out of Greenpeace or something like that, so that should be an interesting combination. And the one that interested me the most was Lauren Faber, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer at the Office of the Mayor Garcetti in Los Angeles. The discussion touched widely on broad policy issues, but they never really got down to the nitty-gritty of how you make this happen. So at the end of the session, she knew me from my involvement in the urban forestry planning model. I work in Beverly Hills, so I think it gets a Beverly Hills stamp, I guess, is perfect. So that's where I came into it. But I had a suggestion that I talked to her about some of the issues that I thought might be affecting us up here that were related to some of her goals. And then maybe some of this stuff is conspiracy theory because we're all conspiracy theorists, right? So first I suggested that having tent cities without proper sanitation and other important support services was not probably something the mayor wanted to run up on his political platform in hopes of being reelected. I touched on the odd coincidence, and maybe I'm wrong, Jackie, this is your area of expertise, but there seems to be a coincidental and timely relaxation of the housing density models out here, especially with old tent camps and RV parks that have dropped off the face of somebody's corporate map. I didn't understand this. Usually when I get a notice about some new fee or something, there's something measurable that says we're going to charge you $5 or $40 for
Septic fee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, you know me, it all ties together in the end. If you live that long, it'll all tie together. But I get a letter that says, number one, I'm going to pay between $5 and $40 for what? I don't know. And then I get a correction letter that says, oh, if you're already on a city septic system, then you ignore that. But that still leaves who? Who in this room is on a city septic system?
There is no city septic system, it's city sewer.
I was hoping somebody would say
Ken,
that
that's
beside
because,
me.
Ken, that's because some of those letters went out to Santa Clarita by accident. That's why.
I guess we'll have to move over there and that way we can be excluded too. So at the end of the day, I'm reading this, it's like I'm paying $5 to show up on somebody's radar. Why am I showing up on somebody's radar? So I asked Ms. Faber, is there remotely any interest in taking that downtown population, cleaning it up and putting it somewhere where it can't be seen till the election is over? That's a pretty forward and paranoid question. And I said, you know, these places out here, I don't know how big the OKOA is, but maybe it's 100 spaces, maybe it's 1,000, maybe it's 2,000. That's a lot of people. Maybe the reason the corporate company backed out of it is how old's the septic system out there? 50 years?
Funny you should mention that. We'll be talking about that tonight.
Okay, so you're paranoid too. So anyway, at the end of it all,
We all are.
I'm looking at this going, I got 50-year-old septic systems. I got to come up to some new standard that applies to everybody except us, unless we pay $5 for it. And at the end, I think when some developer finally does their EIR down in Santa Clarita on the next big thing, it'll pop up that, oh, look at it, this is all, the groundwater levels are corrupted. It must be all the people that's paid $5 to get on the list in Acton. So, I'll close this up. Thank you for being patient with me. I suggested that the idea of making it attractive, I don't think anyone's moving anyone up here, but making it attractive to have a place out here where you can just go to. And Jackie's made a good point. The people might not be permanent, but the situation might be permanent. And outside of our own issues, in what world do we take a group of people that can't be serviced by the city of Los Angeles with centralized support services right in one place and have that type of a problem and hope that we're going to move them up here just to get them out of the way so everybody looks good until they get elected again, and then leave them out here where the goals of this Green New Deal are about densifying the population and putting more transportation and support services. And then finally, when she finally about had enough of me, I said, look, I sit on the school board and we have a problem with ADA, which is the number of kids. We have a problem holding our market. But I really don't want 1,000 kids coming in here, or 50 kids, or even one kid that's not ready to be accepted to give the kind of services that people deserve. So I love ADA, I really do. Problem is you get your ADA a year after, you see kids coming in, they might be hungry, they might need stuff. I don't know that any great minds of the world are raised in a common tent camp on the streets of Los Angeles. So Did I miss anything?
No, but you know, let me mention something here because I know.
Does this tie together in somebody's
Yes,
mind except me?
it does in mine, Peter, but one of the things we're going to talk about tonight in the announcements is that the county is coming up with its framework for interim housing for homeless that looks at things like safe parking in churchyards overnight. You have 100 people parked there overnight, you know, getting permits for that sort of thing. Putting people in Acton's campgrounds, things along those lines. And so that was an announcement I was going to read, and I was going to ask that we put the matter on the agenda because I understand, and Chuck can correct me on this, that the county's coming up with its framework for its addressing its homelessness plan for Antelope Valley. This is for the, what, 10,000, 8,000 people in Antelope Valley addressing them. But I don't think it really matters, City of LA, Antelope Valley, it's a fluid situation. They just get on a train and they can be one or the other. So I'd like to have this matter, if I'm capturing it properly, put on the agenda for next week so we can, and we'll make an announcement now. We are soliciting comments on whether, to the best of my ability or our ability, we'll put up what we understand the county's thinking about. We talked about it on the July 1 meeting with the safe parking and the campground accommodation. There are other ideas I know that they've thought about that they haven't shared with us. So we're going to ask for comments on it and we'll take a position on it the next meeting after we hear from the public. Either please send comments via email or come and talk. It will be an agendized item and it's an important issue for this community. And have I said it correctly, Chuck? Have I mentioned it?
Yes, we are devising a homelessness plan for the unincorporated Antelope Valley, just like the cities of Palmdale and Lancaster got in there.
Yes, and they've contracted with a group called Shelter Partners.
Did you talk to Shelter Partners?
We had met with them on
Okay,
July
that's what I
1.
thought. Okay.
They have a survey that, the link is on our website, so please take their survey. At the ARTC meeting last week, it was acknowledged that it's not the best survey for our community because we're not in the city, but they acknowledge that, but they still would like to hear input from you on that survey.
Jackie, I'll sit down in just a second. I asked at the end, I got a lot of eye rolling while I was talking, which means that this is not, and none of it's real. So I gave a couple of my cards out. I have several. I work for an agency that's very progressive in homeless support services and all that. So I asked if I could get like a little blip from one of the aides or in the office or something, and that was on July 18th. I'm sure they're going to send it and dispel all my concerns, but I just haven't received it.
Would you mind forwarding it to the ATC at ActonTownCouncil.com?
Yeah, when it comes, I sure will.
Okay, and then about sustainability, that is also an issue that's on the agenda for the board's meeting tomorrow. A number of, you touched on a lot of things, and we're going to talk about that too, so.
I just don't see taking people who are already severely disenfranchised and living in a hopeless situation and moving them to a place, not just us, but anywhere where they're even further disfranchised, stuck somewhere with no public transportation, no mental health services, and no county health services. I just find that egregious.
Well, I do know that Donna is on that committee, Donna Tremere with Supervisor Barber's office up here, working with the...
She's on the Antelope Valley Homeless Coalition.
Yes,
she attends those meetings. But she's also on the City of Lancaster's Homeless Commission, which she is the chair of, yes.
And so she understands some of the things you said she heard at the RTC meeting regarding putting people in a place where they have no services is just the worst thing you can possibly do.
I just have one question. You said that they were going to allow them to park in church parking lots in the campground. What's happening with them during the day? They're not going away. They're still going to be in our communities.
One of the things that we mentioned to Shelter Partnership on that idea was that this is just at a meeting that we had with them. We're very concerned about, first of all, sanitary opportunities. So bathrooms, sometimes there's only one men's and one women's, you know. And then also when this conditional use permit that you issue says 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., how are you going to, they can't even enforce CUPs they've already issued, so how do you enforce that? And anyway, Chuck's...
If I can just say, so there's no proposal to allow people to park in church parking lots? I mean, not up here, not in the Antelope Valley. It might be in Los Angeles, I don't know. Yeah. What's going on right now is that Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority was looking for nonprofit organizations to operate safe parking. They picked 2 spots, one's in Palmdale, and I don't know exactly where. One's at the main one is at the Challenger Memorial Youth Center, which is a probation camp up in Lancaster and Avenue I, if you know where it is. It's between the Old Loma Jail and the animal shelter. That's getting ready to close. It's got 2 big fenced parking lots, so the idea would be to put up to 40 cars in there at night. They'd have to have a security guard, and they'd also have to have essentially social worker counselors there with them. They'd also have to have bathrooms and showers there. They wouldn't be going into the buildings or anything like that. And they also would have to leave during the day. So it's not motor homes that are parking there. It's the people right now who are behind, say, Joann's Fabrics or the Walmart. And you know, they're there. And so the idea is put them there where there's a guard watching them, so there's no sexual assaults or anything else going on. And that's supposed to open up like November time. But it wouldn't just be any church could open up and let people park.
Can you identify, because a lot of new faces in the room, who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Chuck Bostwick. I work for Los Angeles County Supervisor Catherine Barger out for Antelope Valley office. And so I spent a large amount of my time dealing with homeless issues and also probably with illegal dumping. Those are probably the 2 things that take up most of the time.
Just a couple months ago on that, the county, the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, LAHSA, which is the term you used, they just issued their 2019 Safe Parking Program proposals, request for proposals, seeking sites. And so in it, they specify the requirements. We can post this on the website.
Okay, and so the ones that the ones that they're using were county sites, so that we're not trying to. You can't just move them into a Walmart parking lot because Walmart is going to have something to say about that.
Right.
And so
however, let me say something that I do know is coming down the pipe that we need to be aware of. Right now, it is not. You are not allowed under the zoning code if a use is zoned for a church and you have a CUP for a church, unless safe parking is authorized in the CUP, it's not going to happen. However, what regional planning is contemplating by the end of this month is the framework for an ordinance that makes that legal in all of these places. So once regional planning adopts an ordinance that says safe parking can happen in whatever, churches or...
Well, I think the Board of Supervisors would have to adopt that.
No, I appreciate that.
Okay.
The problem is that not
It's
all...
not happening at the end of this month.
According to Connie Chung, the ordinance framework, what they're planning on proposing to put in the ordinance is the end of this month. So that's why I'm asking to have it be agendized. And we've reached out to Connie and asked her to come. She might not, she was going to send a person to our next meeting, I believe. So I think we're going to talk about it, and we should have somebody from the county here to address this specific issue. Because right now they're looking at changing the ordinance to allow that sort of thing in other places. And once you do that, whether or not you're a licensed place with everything you have on it, that you're supposed to, security, showers and everything, people will just go to places in Bed Park, even if they're not under the umbrella of approved parking places.
Well, yeah,
and
they're already parking behind the Walmart and Joann's.
No, I know. So enforcement is a difficulty, so anyway.
I want to make sure we get through the comments, so.
Okay, so you guys are talking about the KOA campground, you're gonna put people over there, right?
No.
Well, we're not talking about it. That has been proposed.
Under camp.
Well, I think
They're
primarily.
entering a homeless community, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's, how many minutes is it from a fire station, or from anything?
Nobody has proposed to the county doing that.
Good.
Better talk to shelter partners.
If they haven't proposed to me,
They have to us, so.
I'm Kathy Queen, and I'm a 25-year resident. What do we know specifically about the escrow and the 29 homes? And
Okay, yeah, I was gonna get, is there anybody, can I ask?
Yeah,
If there's any more comments on the 29 homes, the tiny homes?
Raise your hand
So
if you're here about the
please,
29 homes.
I'd like to hear, let's hear this. So let me get the comments on it, if anyone wants to make it.
Where are they supposed to go?
That's a good, wait, the 29 homes?
Whatever homeless facility, where are you guys planning on putting them, where?
It's
Is
not-
it,
we don't know.
where is it supposedly proposed to go?
So, all right, so the homelessness, what they call bridge housing, interim housing, is an issue that the county's grappling with, and they have floated some ideas in this community that we have expressed concerns with, such as
Homeless
camping.
for people in Acton or from Palmdale, Lancaster?
Homeless for homeless
Bring the issue
people.
up here, is what they're doing.
Now, they've never ever mentioned the tiny homes issue. That's a separate issue that I think some of you people have.
You don't send the good
Now,
people up here.
I've done a lot of homework on the tiny homes, okay?
Let him talk.
There was a
Let him talk.
90.
Let him talk. Let this one talk.
Okay. Thank you. We'll just, we'll let him, he says it.
Thank you so much. I'm the founder of the Thrive LA project that at the moment is hated in here, but people have a misconception about what it is. And I would just like,
What's your name?
my name is Perry Goldberg. Hi, everybody.
Okay.
The
And I'm sorry, who
project,
do you represent?
I'm the founder of the Thrive LA project that's being pinned in a certain way that's not accurate for what it is. I'll just tell you what it is.
And you're not an Acton resident, though?
I have an office in Acton, and I have an offer pending on a house in Acton, and I own raw land in Acton that I've been trying to develop for years. Are you going to reside in that property?
Please.
I hope to, yes.
Let him speak and then we can.
One person at a time, please.
Yeah. Thanks for giving me a chance, folks. The purpose of the Thrive LA project is to help our returning veterans. 80% of our returning veterans don't have a job when they leave the military. The folks who are coming back from fighting, risking their lives, so many of them become homeless, and we don't have to wait until someone becomes homeless to help them. There are so many ideas that the government's pursuing that involve spending taxpayer money. Personally, I don't think we need to throw more dollars at the problem. I think we need some new ideas. When Abraham Lincoln was president, he enacted the Homestead Act, and it gave people an opportunity. You could pick 160 acres that was owned by the federal government, and if you build your own house and you built your farm and you lived there for 5 years, it was yours. And that was done when there were no roads and no electricity and no Amazon, and it was really hard. And now, it's so much easier, in theory, for people to build their own home and to create a farm. Our concept is to help returning veterans, to train returning veterans who have no substance abuse issue and no mental health issue, and who've gone through a very rigorous training program that we're developing. And we've submitted a grant application with the USDA. We've also developed a curriculum for effective communication and interpersonal relations to make sure that when people are working together on a collaborative farm, which is our idea of to have 6 veterans working as a team on a small farm, on a large property. And the last thing we want to do is change the rural character of Acton. It's the nicest place I know of, and I have no desire, I'm just one guy. I have no desire to change Acton at all. I love it, and I 100% agree. It needs to be preserved as rural. We don't want people who are drug addicts here. We don't want the homeless coming here. I agree with all that 100%. Our project is trying to give veterans who are returning from overseas a chance to have a farm. That could be a small part of alleviating the housing crisis. If we give people new options to have this wonderful lifestyle that you all have, I would love to be able to use my 11.5 acres. The county is not letting me do it. You guys have nothing to worry about when it comes to tiny houses. The county's never going to allow that here in Acton, okay? So I'm just talking about within the rules, having a small farm, 6 people who are returning veterans, not already homeless, not drug addicts, carefully screened, well supervised, well trained. That's what the program is. And I really apologize for any misconceptions. I don't know how it got so confused if that's what it was, but it's not what I think people
I can
imagine.
tell you how it
I
got
think
confused.
we're
Please, please.
No, one person at a time.
So, it's the website that describes the housing types and things.
Yeah.
So that's where the confusion comes from. What you just said is nowhere on there, at least nowhere on there when you look at it for more than 5 or 6 minutes. So, I think that's where the confusion, because the website talks about North LA County, it talks about the various types of tiny housing that could be used. What you just described is not anywhere in there that I'm aware of.
Fair enough. So the thing about the tiny houses, that was the original idea, was tiny houses, because we have very expensive housing in Los Angeles, and if you're trying to build housing that's affordable, you need to do 2 things. You need raw land that's cheap, which is not in the city, right? The only cheap land is in the northern part of the county. And you need smaller houses. If you build smaller, you can build it cheaper.
No, we understand.
So that's the idea, but LA County is not going to let people build tiny houses here in Acton. You can do it in the Antelope Valley, in theory, where it's not a very high fire hazard zone.
Okay, well, wait, he's sitting here shaking his head no.
I don't think we'll let them do it in the Antelope Valley either. We have 3 other groups that I know of who want to do it, and we keep trying to tell them, we meaning my coworkers, no, it'll just be too much trouble. You'd spend years trying to get this approved, and they will tell us, oh, there's tiny houses in Las Vegas, and I'll say, well, I'll bet you they fought for years to get permission to do it. That you can't build houses smaller than 800 square feet in Los Angeles.
Well, this is how the rumor gets spread,
Yeah.
because you're saying yeah, and you're saying no, and
Yeah.
everybody here
I
is
just
going,
I don't
what
want
do you
anybody
guys
to
keep
think.
talking
He's
about?
100% right.
Yeah.
He's 100% right. But what's the difference is if you have if you have a farm and farm workers
Are they working on your farm?
on my farm,
They're gonna be in your house? Because I don't want to land.
no one's putting them on your house, don't worry.
This is not working.
Okay.
This is not working.
Real quickly, my suggestion would be that Thrive LA update their website. And
We need
put a
to get
mission statement on it that coincides with what you just told me. I think that.
I've done some research, and let me just share what I've learned. I committed to it, it's somebody, I think it might have been you that, yeah. And so my understanding is that there's a particular parcel near San Gabriel, San Gabriel Road, that has been looked at, and I looked at the zoning and land use on that parcel. And it has both the zoning and the land use designation require 2-acre minimums. And that is never, ever going to go away. Because it's to do away with that, to put any more than, I would say 3, possibly 4 homes on this 9-acre parcel would require a general plan amendment, a zoning amendment, which we would seek comment from the community on, but for the last 15 years that I've been on the town council, that type of thing would be opposed from the get-go, unless we heard from overwhelmingly that that's what this community wants, then that would be the path that we would continue. It is not an easy thing to get a general, and it's not just a general plan amendment, it would be countywide general plan amendment and an AV area plan amendment. You're only allowed to do those a couple of times a year, the county is. So I have done, if I have the location correctly identified, a 9-acre parcel about near San Gabriel, where, remember they were gonna put the diner in like 8.
Well, why don't we let him tell us whether that's the parcel?
Not at all. I mean, there are lots of different projects, so our project has nothing to do with that area
Okay.
at all.
So you're not in escrow on a 9-acre parcel?
No.
What about the 11.5 acres?
Okay,
Yeah, the
hold
11.5,
on.
yeah.
We're trying to get information here. So you're not in escrow on anything that's 9 acres over by the fire station on Sierra Highway?
Correct.
Okay, so can you tell us what you are in escrow on so that we can determine where you're proposing to put this?
Well, yes. I only own one property in Acton. I own property as well in the Antelope Valley.
Okay,
And the property that I own in Acton is on Forest View Road. It's actually outside of the Acton Community Standards District, but I will follow the community standards. And I probably will not be using that property for this project just because it's difficult.
does it have a Palmdale address? Because that's not a,
Forest View Road is right off Angeles Forest Highway, correct?
That's
but
right.
it's,
That
but
is
it's a
within
Palmdale.
Acton CSD. That
The-
lies within the CSD.
The part that I'm on is just outside of it. I'm at the end of Forest View Road by Vincent Hill.
Yes, that is within the Acton CSD.
I'll take your word for it, but I have looked it up on the county's GIS website, and I'm very familiar with the borders of the CSD, and so I could easily be
I
wrong,
think he's outside.
but I believe it is outside. It doesn't really matter that I have every intention of following the community standards.
And I believe that area is also zoned for 2-acre minimums. Some
It is.
places 5, some places 25, so I don't know exactly what.
And the way that the county interprets that, you can only have one house on it. You'd have to subdivide it in order to do more than that, and I'm not planning to subdivide it. So all I'm looking to do is have one home on 11.5 acres, outside of sight, and with people who are going to be carefully screened. And another part of the plan is to have the 6 people who are in the community clear all the brush and clear all the trash within a 1-mile radius of the project. And I think that's really important. I think it's very doable, and it's important that we address the fire hazard that we have and all the dumping that we have here. I don't know of any other plans to try to help Acton as much as this one, and I'm so sorry that there's so much animosity toward it. And I really assure you that we're going to address all of the concerns that people have, and we're not going to do anything that causes any harm. And I want to do everything I can to incorporate your good ideas into the plan and make it better.
So what's the difference? He's saying on the website is totally different from what you're telling us.
Yeah.
So where's the, where are we not getting together?
So the website, the original idea for Thrive LA was tiny houses. And actually Thrive LA is an acronym. It stands for tiny houses plus respect plus integration equals veterans excel in Los Angeles. It's a mouthful, but that's what it stood for. And then as we met with the county, with regional planning, and with lots of other folks, we learned that's really it's a non-starter in Acton. So the first property that I bought was in Acton, and then I realized, okay, well, you can't do tiny houses, people aren't gonna like it, you can't do it, forget about it. In the Antelope Valley, in Lake Los Angeles area out there, I believe that you would be able to do farm worker housing. So farm worker housing is a statewide program. And under farm worker housing, there are different housing types that people can use. So normally you can't do tiny houses because there's 800 square foot minimum. But I think that with farm worker housing, you'd be able to have a small home on wheels. And there are a lot of folks who are loving living smaller, but we're not talking about changing the density of the Antelope Valley or anywhere else. We're just talking about giving 6 people a chance to work together on a small farm. And the question is, well, where do they live? And so if you want to do tiny houses, which I think is perfectly normal and okay, you can have gorgeous tiny houses. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's not right for Acton, but it's not terrible for the Antelope Valley. So anyway, that's the idea for the Antelope Valley, is that sort of housing. But for here in Acton, it would just be a traditional single-family residence that would be 6 bedrooms. And if the county will allow it, we'd have 6 people living in the home and working on the farm. So that's the idea.
Sir, what's the long-term end goal for these guys when they're here at your place? How long are they here for? And then when they're done, where do they go from there?
Yeah, what do you do with farming skills? If you want to teach them something, teach them to drive an Uber or something. Farming skills are 0. We import people from Mexico to do the farming. We don't do farming anymore.
Okay.
That's not a skill that's marketable.
All right, we need to, we're going to raise our hand, we're going to stand, we're going to identify ourselves, we're not going to just go. Are you okay with answering?
I'm happy to answer questions. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
I have a really important question.
Identify yourself. You got to identify yourself.
My name is Lynn Bennett.
Hi, Lynn.
I live in Acton.
Hi.
How are you going to deal with the veterans who have PTSD?
I think it's a wonderful question. I mean, I feel terrible that the folks who have been risking their lives for us, about 30% of them are coming back and they have PTSD.
What are you going to do about it? How are you going to deal with it in this home environment?
Yeah, well.
When they go bonkers, that's the only nice way I can say it.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of experience with it. What are you going to do?
Sure. The overarching concept for Thrive LA is that we want to help the folks who don't need supportive services. If someone is in need of serious supportive services, they're not for our community. We want everyone to get help who needs help. If someone is a drug addict, they should be getting help. If someone has a mental health issue, they should be getting help. The folks who we want to help are the 60%, there's a huge percentage of folks who have no substance abuse issue and no mental health issue. They just need an opportunity. And they become homeless if they're homeless, or you're talking about the people who are returning from overseas who don't have a job. It's not their fault that they don't have a job when they're leaving the military. Our military should be doing a much better job helping these folks transition. But frankly, we're not trying to help the people who are dealing with serious mental health issues. They won't be invited to be part of our community, and they'll frankly be screened out of our community.
Are you aware that most of the veterans will not tell you they have a problem? It's a hidden illness, and it doesn't come out till years after they come back home. Or maybe it comes back when they arrive back in the U.S. You don't know it. You're not aware of it till something really, really bad happens.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm sorry.
All right, so hold on, hold on.
It's a fair point. I think it's a fair point.
I think what we need to do, because we've gone over our comment period, I'd like to invite you back, we'll agendize it, and then we can have a formalized Q&A. We can kind of do this in a more straightforward fashion, because it's basically, we're not gonna give an answer this evening.
However, in the meantime, would you be so kind as to update your website so people can review it and then be more informed before you come?
It's a fair point too. The problem is that the executive director, we don't have any money. And so we ran out of money. I was paying a person out of my pocket to be doing that. We created the website and to update it. And he hasn't been working for us because we ran out of money. So, you know, I'm happy. We have detailed plans that I'm very happy to share with everyone. Our grant application lays out the plans. Irrigation, for example, and rainwater harvesting.
We don't get rain.
We got 8 inches, I know, we get 8 inches of rain. And so if you harvest it and you put it in cisterns, you can actually spread it out. In Taos, New Mexico, this is what they're doing, and they are able to live off of 8 inches of rainfall just by capturing it over a large enough area, not even that big of an area, and putting it in cisterns, and then having smart recycling of the water. So they use their water 4 times. And so there are a lot of really smart things that we can do. There's something called the shower of the future, where you only use 2 gallons of water for your shower, because as you're showering, the water is getting filtered. It's already heated once, you don't have to heat it again. There are a lot of smart things that we can be doing. And, you know, I know there's a lot of skepticism, but people are really doing amazing things around the world with making their water go farther and doing incredibly low-level amounts of water for irrigation, and also growing plants that are drought tolerant. Prickly pear cactus is something you can actually monetize, for example. There are lots of plants that grow here without water. And you know, it's not like someone's going to get rich from this, but the idea is to give someone a chance to have their own small farm with a bunch of other people where they barely need to make any money because their cost of living is so low. And that's, look, it might be a stupid idea, and I've been putting my own money into the idea. I believe in it. I think it's a wonderful place to have a small farm. I'm hoping to give it a try. I'm seeking funding from the USDA to do the training program. To train, it's the beginning farmer and rancher program.
They're already asking us that they're going to limit the amount of water that we can use per day.
We don't want to have a well. We don't want to take the water away from you folks. It's just a matter of capturing a small amount of rainwater and using it.
We're gonna stop the questions there for the meeting. Yeah, okay, well.
I'm Dave Foley, and I'd like to know so that I don't come ignorant to the next meeting, and I can do my homework and be well versed as to what the particular issues are, because I don't want to talk over people. I really want it to be an educational forum for myself as well. Would you once again give us your website so that I can do my homework and others may as well? Sure. And any other research that should be done prior to coming together.
So let me ask you first, if you can please give us as much information as you can email the town council, and we can post whatever, you know, whatever pertinent stuff that you want to make available.
Thank you.
And then we can post.
And then you don't have to update your website.
Then you have to worry about the website. We'll post it.
So he'll give you his website, but our website is
ActonTownCouncil.org.
Yes.
And so we'll have it there. Go ahead and share that.
And whatever he provides us,
we'll put up there.
Thank you.
So the website is thrivela.org, and honestly, it's not set in stone. We haven't even sought approval for a particular pilot, so it's very open, and I would really welcome ideas other than go away. Anything other than go away, I'm super open to, and we'll really take it to heart and really incorporate it into our plans.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's not.
Thanks, folks.
That's not. Thank you. All right. Are there any non-tiny house questions? Chris.
Over here so everybody can hear me. Chris Croysdale, 8th resident of Acton. And a couple of things, a lot of you know me, I've been working on the filming issues and stuff, and I want to say that for the last few months, actually, you guys have reeled in the property owners and the county, and they've reeled in and returned the people filming there. And there's only been one issue, it was a lighting issue. I stopped by and they said, yeah, we need the lights. And
did they?
They did. They weren't happy to see me. I can see the look on their face, but I'm used to that. So
nobody's ever happy to see
yeah, I know. So the filming's been great, and I think as long as they're doing their filming and making money, and our quality of life is returned, it's doing pretty good over there. Other thing is that I noticed there was some talk about the RV mobile homes now that are showing up on the sides of the road. I think it's twofold. I think some of it is homelessness. Other is homelessness that spends most of their time at either Thousand Trails Campground or KOA, but there's limits on the length of time they can stay there. In 1 second.
I'm going to address that.
Actually,
Okay.
yeah, we have an announcement on that.
So just today, a few weeks ago, there was 3 mobile homes. A lot of them use that turnoff right at Bootlegger on Soledad Canyon. They're pulling off there. And yeah, there's 4 there right now. I took photographs, and just to let you guys know, there's another issue, and they kind of come together. The county, from my understanding, owns from the white line on the side of the road 10 foot out. When you go past that 10 foot, you're on private property. So that turnout, even though it looks like it's the county, that is owned by a private citizen here in Acton. And I went and I pulled that paperwork today over at the county assessor's office, and his name is Steve Anderson. Anyone know him?
Yeah.
So Steve Anderson owns that road, and what I was told by one of my neighbors, they stopped and talked to one of the RVs there, and they said that the owner of the property said it was okay for them to stay there. I don't know if they're giving them $10 a night or whatever. So I think that might be
So
used as
there's a lot of misinformation there. Steve's called the station and had us kick him out.
So has Steve done a letter of agency for you?
No, he hasn't yet, and I'll get a hold of him for that.
So
you know,
he is against them parking there.
But we are citing them for camping, and there's, like this, I already addressed it with the town council, and we actually are working to deal with it. Basically, Thousand Trails, it's like they're there for 2 weeks, they have to leave for 2 weeks, and they gotta come back. We explained to them where they can be, is like, you know, a national forest, and pay the little, you know, day fee or whatever part.
Okay.
That there's nowhere in the county for overnight camping. It's been addressed at the station at briefings, they know the section, it's up on our whiteboard. As far as what it is, a $100 fine, I know it's nothing, but it's something, it gives us a little bit of footing there. We're citing people for littering when we find anything out there, like there, and we've been moving them back and forth from Antelope Woods over to Bootlegger, and it's a little daisy chain, but the word is getting out that that's not okay for them to be doing that. Well, that's what we've already addressed that with the town council. I emailed them. We're going to work on doing that, and then all the properties that are, like the Cedrella property is privately owned, with Steve Andrews apparently, so that area is privately owned. There's a thing called letter of agency. If you guys own rural land that's not developed, you can go to the station, it's called letter of agency, and it gives us pre-authorization to arrest someone for trespassing. So you don't have to be present, you don't have to sign anything, it's pre-authorization.
So is that?
They are limited on what we can do on private property, because that's basically someone's living.
So
The
that's the
sheriff's
reason why they
office-
still, I'm sorry, but that's the reason why when you go and you cite them, they still stay there for 3 or 4 days afterwards?
No, because they're not arrestable, they're infractions.
Got it.
I mean, like, it's not like, it's something, obviously, and hopefully it'll be a deterrent, and we're trying to use whatever tools we can in our toolbox, but it's not like we can gap them up and, you know.
Okay.
But if they don't pay the fine, is it like if you don't pay a bunch of parking tickets eventually?
Yes, yeah,
you get
yes.
one? Okay, so there is
We
a,
call them warrant applications, because people usually don't pay for them, and then they eventually become warrants, and then we take you in.
The sheriff's office is asking for, and I'm sure Deputy Martinez will mention this law, if you stay for his, he'll be up soon. Asking for anybody who has vacant land or knows somebody with vacant land where people live, please have them sign a letter of agency. It takes no time, and then that can be addressed to the greatest extent possible.
So you don't have to have someone on the property to do that, you can do that
Ahead of time.
Yes.
They need it ahead of time.
And
Got it.
does that come up on your car when you pull up to that property and so on?
So what it is, when we have a call for service, the address, when it populates, is called a hazardous hit. And if there's a letter of agency, or there's just dogs on the property, or whatever thing that might be an officer safety issue, it comes up, and we'll have like gate codes, you know, for like fires and stuff, or medical calls. A lot of our elderly community will put like their gate code as a hazard hit, so when we go there, we can get into the property.
But I think the issue here would be that most of these addresses are not going to have an address, it's going to be an APN number.
Yeah, that's fine, it's still.
Yeah, we can still work with that.
Okay.
Again, we're a small enough station that the personnel, the word gets out, we can put a list at the desk and say, hey, these intersections, you know, this property here is this person's, blah, 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 whatever.
All right, well, that's good. This was the information I was bringing to the council tonight. I'll give you photos, the APN numbers. The second one pertains to Steve Anderson also, I think, was that I live off of Mary Hill on the, let's see, that's north, on the east side of Mary Hill. And the closest to this property would be the Picks. And there's a property where when my daughter and the other neighbors go on their horse ride, you go over a ridge and you're in a little gully, it's behind Thousand Trails. And there's a couple of parcels back there and they've been totally becoming more and more littered with illegally parked vehicles. I've gone and I've looked online and it's just supposed to be bare land, there's no permits for anything. And currently on that site there is 2 mobile homes, 1 storage container, 1 front end loader that's broken down, rusted on the ground, 1 farm tractor broken down, 7 trucks, 3 fifth-wheel RV trailers, 5 camping tow trailers, 2 RVs, mobile or drivable mobile homes, 3 buildings, and 2 mobile home frames. That are
Wait, 3 buildings or on wheel buildings?
No, buildings. They look like, 2 of them look like storage sheds, maybe 10 by 12s. Another one looks like it could be a 10 by 25. When I've gone by there before, just on our excursions, there have been dogs in the past that would come out and try to attack you.
So somebody's living there?
Someone could be living there, but Stephanie goes by
I
more
would
often
say
than
yes,
I.
because
You
when I
see
ride by
anyone
there, I see people.
We never really see people there, really. We never even seen a person, but sometimes we see dogs there. We hear them barking, and either they're locked up.
Yeah, so
Do you have, can you, well, the
I've
easiest
given you
thing,
photographs, aerials, photographs
APN
from
numbers?
outside, and APN numbers.
okay, great.
Because it looks to me, I thought it was 1 parcel because it's all just spread out in one little valley there. But when I went to the county tax assessors, it's actually spread over 2 parcels, and one of them is Steve Anderson's, the other one is not, and the one that's not is in tax default currently for 2018 also.
Oh, that's a problem.
So, and it's in a trust.
How do you threaten a guy who doesn't really own the land anymore? Yeah, yeah. But you can give that to us and we'll set code
excuse me?
enforcement on
Have
it.
you guys called us on it?
I don't think, unless you guys bring out a motorcycle or full
The
drive,
reason why I say that's a lot of broken down vehicles, we can get VIN numbers, possibly there's stolen vehicles that are being dumped there. We can get what's our trap is our investigate, like that's where they specialize. They can go out there and stake it out. They did that over Carson Mesa. A bunch of cars being dumped on someone's private property, and they were able to get a search warrant because a bunch of them were coming up stolen, and they did the surveillance, and they were able to get rid of all that cars. We're not aware of that because we're not horseback riding in the
I've
canyon.
actually notified Oscar Gomez.
Oh, yeah.
I sent Oscar Gomez all of this information close to, I want to say about a year ago.
Did you
And then-
CC us?
And I think I did CC the Acton Town Council on it with the information, and then he had returned an email about 3 months after that, said he couldn't find the APN number. And I sent it directly to him again with the APN number, and I haven't seen any action take place, but I have seen more and more debris on the site.
Well, we'll loop in Supervisor.
And sometimes I go out and look for parcels just so I can find them, you know, and before I say, you know, it's a 1/4 mile off the dirt road on the right before you get up the hill, so they can't say, oh, I drove out there and I couldn't figure out which one it
I
was.
believe access to this property, because it's landlocked, has to come directly through Thousand Trails Gate, through their property, through their entire
How do
campground.
they get any cars up there?
I believe Steve Anderson's house, from what I told, is through there too. I believe he shares the gate with Thousand Trails, because his house is landlocked.
Is this the southwest corner of Thousand Trails?
If you
There's
look
a
at
funky-
if you look at the Thousand Trails Gate, you go straight through. If you come, remember when you came to?
Yeah, and I remember there was a funky, I thought it was the southwest corner that had a bunch of weird stuff and a fence around it that I couldn't know
There's
what it was.
no fence around this.
Oh.
Remember when I took you and, did I take you and Donna up to the top of the hill?
Yeah.
It's just on the backside of that hill and down.
Oh, then I don't know. But anyway, send me the information, we'll
Okay,
get
I'm
out.
gonna give it all to them, and if
Okay.
you guys wanna
Yeah, we'll
forward it.
just-
So
Well,
those are
you know
the-
what, let's hand it to him, and you just send it to us electronically. Is that okay?
I can just
You know what, I didn't
Okay,
scan
you know
all
what,
this,
we're
this
good.
was directly,
Take pictures, we're good.
okay,
We'll get back.
there's the other one. Actually, that's Soledad Canyon. This is the one.
Let's do that.
And you can see.
Anything else before we close out community
Quick
comments?
photos.
I just have a question about, off Santiago, when you get off,
You can see
the
this is
freeway
not a small.
by the wash, there's constant dumping, there's
Yeah.
constantly people parking there. There's,
So when you get off the freeway, Santiago, you go south
if you're,
towards La
Towards
Quinta,
La Quinta?
Away from the shopping center towards
Yeah,
La
so-
Mesa.
yeah,
and it's on,
the right-hand side,
There's just a
Before Stallion
little bit of wash right there before
When
Stallion.
you say dumping, is it dirt, is it,
everything,
debris?
everything.
Because I've
Yeah.
noticed an uptick along
Couches,
Sierra.
there was a big thing of glass that was broken there one time, there's chairs, there's.
okay.
Mattresses.
People stop
It's a
by-
public restroom.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
And
that.
everybody gets off the freeway, they pull over there, and they go around the bushes, and they pee, they poop, they do whatever, they change diapers, they get back on the freeway and keep going to Palmdale.
It's disgusting.
So, can one of you guys, Patrick Holland know from Public Works?
If they could put like one of those gates in, like the county uses, where everybody has a common lock to, it would keep the people off of there.
Well,
And then they go back in the back.
The thing is, it might actually be already owned by the county, so we might already have that obligatory requirement. So we need to first get the parcel number, see who owns it, and then depending on who owns it, that's who you send a complaint or the issue to. So we're gonna try, you guys know where it is sort of?
Yes.
You can dig it down, you dig it up and then we can move from there.
Right. But whoever has jurisdiction does a lot of cleanup and a lot of, they always put the berm up to keep people from
They
driving
do.
back in. Yes, on a regular basis, that thing's being graded like a turnout.
But
and
then it
the
turns
berm
out
up-
that they're back.
Well, it breaks down because people drive over
Yeah.
it and four-wheel drive trucks and things, so.
So
Well,
I had
if
a
it is
meeting
county
with
flood
public,
control, then we can have them put a fence up.
I had a meeting with Public Works, lady after the A&P incident over on Ella Woods and cleaning up all that junk and stuff that the lady left behind. So as long as it's on like the shoulder of a public road, that 8800 number or wherever the 888 illegal dump number, give them a call, put in their incident for them, like a call for service for them, and they will come out and pick it all up. In that area you're talking about, that turnout, yes, I see it all the time, and I call them from time to time.
And they park there all night long and.
Yeah, a lot of them, I have a different rule on it. I come up on them a lot of them are sleepy drivers, and we know how bad the 14 freeway is with accidents. I'm not gonna be citing people or, trying to harass them for taking a nap. I mean, it is a commuter area. If they're, that's where I rely on that. I know I'm kind of like, okay, but I mean, these people are sleeping and they're pulling off the freeway for the crash. If it's a different issue going on and stuff like that, obviously call the sheriff's department. There's abandoned vehicles, it's highway patrol. But as far as the dumping goes, that if they have it online and they have a phone number,
Yeah, and then
call them up.
the Works app too.
Yeah, and the
So
Works app works as well.
And you can drop
And
the pin.
Yeah.
So you see those like even like on Soledad, on those little turnouts where people just throw like those random garbage bags and stuff. Call them, they come out. It might take a few days. They'll come out and pick it up. That's what they're there for. So.
And feel free to send it to the town council, but we'd appreciate if you take the initiative and contact the county directly, just because, we have day jobs and families too, so sometimes it takes us a week to get to something.
Not
So-
to mention, you're the one seeing it, so you're gonna be able to give a much better location of where it's at versus, giving me a call or an email and saying, oh, it's like a quarter mile here. You might be able to actually look at Google Maps and be able to like give a better description of where it's
And
at.
honestly, I'm gonna guess that most people in here have a smartphone. If you download the Works app, you can snap a picture and you can just literally hit dumping. It'll ask if it's a bulky item or what it is, and then just.
As long as it's not on private property, they'll pick it up.
Yeah.
And that information, those phone numbers and everything are
It's
on
on the
our
website,
website.
too.
Our website, as well as the public website.
Can I say something about that road there? One side, people dump everything, and on the other side, the water from winter rains is just about wiped out to the point where the asphalt's the only thing, and a ledge, and then a bunch of concrete somebody's dumped in there, broken concrete. That needs to be repaired really badly. Somebody's going to drive off into that hole. There's a big hole.
So this is in the roadway or
Right,
adjacent?
South Diego Road, just past, if you're going that way, just past.
It's across the street from where they're dumping.
Yeah.
Well, no, I know it's the roadway.
It really needs to
I
be
know
worked.
it's not gonna-
There's no reason for anybody to be driving in there, though. That is a water course.
No, but I think he's just
It's this far off this.
Yeah, I know what he's talking about. Yeah, it's
That
completely
far off
eroded,
the asphalt.
and then you get another big set of rain, and it's gonna. end up
It just keeps eating.
It's not.
It's. All right. We'll run that down too.
Thanks.
No problem.
Do you have to do them separately, because can't vote on the second one.
No, just abstain.
Yeah. I'm sorry? Yes.
So I need a.
Oh, all right.
Do I need to accept the minutes as this?
Second. All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
The July one's perfect, Kelly, I just.
Okay.
We can still fix it.
Well, the last one was really, really short.
Yes, very short.
And Jeremy, just so you know, that we're going to talk about the cement.
Yeah.
If you take Shell Top from Soledad, right across from
$52.05 in our account, and the only expense we had this month was I paid for the renewal tags on our trailer that's parked at the Forest Service station, which is the one that has the emergency supplies in it. And I've got an expense coming up that I just got notice for, and it's the renewal of our fictitious business name. So we probably need to take a vote on that. It's $26, and I can go over to the Lancaster Recorder's office and pay for it. It's not actually due until October 17th of 2019. These things last for 5 years.
But they catch up, so let's just do it.
No, exactly.
You want to?
I could just consent on that.
Yeah.
Just go for it?
Yep.
Okay. That's it.
All right. Sheriff's report.
He stepped out for a minute.
How dare you?
Can we talk about like the specific stuff that we're going to be involved in that's not really?
It's coming very soon. We have an Eagle project to talk about this first. It'll soon.
Yeah. Library report, is Jim in here? Or is he hiding?
There we go. Thank you, Brian.
I'm sure.
Sorry.
People wanted
Not already talking now. Hi guys, Orlando Martinez, your resident deputy. The numbers this week, I'm going to have to email them to you because she's on vacation, but we'll get them to you guys. One thing I did want to address, a lot of the auto thefts that have been going on in the valley, we believe we've arrested the 2 main people that are doing it. One of the guys that we arrested for it, they tied 6 different burglaries to him. And the reason why we were able to arrest them was because someone actually did a report for a lost Charger that was taken from an unlocked vehicle that was not his. It was, hot pink or something. And that was able to tie him to the burglary. The reason why I bring that up is because he also had 3 other cell phones that did not belong to him with no report behind them. Okay?
So the Charger.
No, I'm saying like we weren't able to charge him with 3 other burglaries that would inevitably put him away for longer. This community is a great community. There's a handful of bad apples that we have, and we want to keep them away as long as possible. I know a lot of people. I'm on all the Facebook groups. I'm on Nextdoor, and everyone likes to chime in on stuff, but we're not getting the phone calls to the station. People are not making the reports. It may seem insignificant to a lot of you guys, but a Charger was able to put this guy away. That's how we wrote the time to multiple other stuff.
Just a little portable $20 car charger.
Yeah.
Or phone charger.
And it doesn't seem like much, and it seems like maybe it's a waste of time, but it's not a waste of time for us. The detectives is how they get those breadcrumbs to make that loaf. The lady over at AM/PM, there was like 302 comments on Facebook, right? 2 phone calls to the sheriff's station. That's it. It was on my days off. I came back, and we were able to, handle the situation that day. So it's, once again, like, I'm not always on. Call the station. We'll get it out there. If I'm on, I monitor every call, and I see what's going on. I can respond to it. But we need to know about it. We need your help. You guys are the eyes and ears on the ground. And we, just like he was saying about those vehicles dumped in the canyon. I'm not on a horse. I have no idea what's, a couple, in a valley down below. I'm not going to know unless you guys tell us. And when we can figure it out, we'll figure it out. But I need you guys' help on that. So.
Good question.
Yeah.
Did you get a report on Aspen of a break-in in a water and power truck?
Yes.
Okay, so that's my neighbor. He and I have the same camera systems.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It was a couple of ring footage. Everyone's sharing them, and we were able to link a couple of that stuff up. The water power, it's a county vehicle. You got to, or it's a city vehicle. They have to report it. Like there's no if.
Oh yeah, they stole his computer and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
He puts everything behind the fence.
Yeah, and preventative stuff. A lot of these thefts that occurred, this summer, we had a lot of them this summer, were because the vehicles were unlocked. we do live in a good, community, but there is like those bad apples. You can't make it easy. If a guy's walking down, he's checking 15 car doors and one's unlocked, well, guess which one he's rummaging through? The one that's unlocked. It's remembering the little things. Or Chuck, get your hand
I was going to say, if people don't want to wait for a deputy to show up when they've had a petty theft out of their home, can they file those
yes,
reports
they can.
online?
You can go on LASD.org, and on the left-hand side, towards the bottom of the menu, it says online reporting. As long as it's not serialized property, under 950, and no suspect information. So you don't have like a video of the guy coming into your car and taking it. You're able to do it online. It generates a file number. It will go to the detective bureau. Someone's going to look at it, and it could be, hey, that looks like the same MO that this guy's been using. Maybe this is the same case, and they are able to further follow up and maybe tie it in.
Okay, so you sent an email to us
Yeah.
with two things that I want to make sure we cover. The letter of agency, which we talked about.
Right.
Then the other one was you recommended or asked the town council to consider us contacting Public Works and request that they post signs on Antelope Woods, the read camping prohibited.
Correct.
And cite the code number. Is that something you would like us to do?
Yes.
Or you, so I would like to make a motion that we do that. For Antelope Woods, is there any other place?
The bootlegger turnout, like
bootlegger turnout, any other place that you would recommend? I mean, we can add it later.
We can always add it
Just
later,
start-
but as of right now, those are the two hot spots for the 1,000 Trail migration.
There's a couple spots on Soledad, but it's usually like one or two per turn off and stuff.
Well, let me do this then. I know those two. If Troy, you could compile the list and then just send it to the town council, I'll draft the letter and we'll all approve it if we vote to send a letter.
Because a lot of the things that I'm hearing from them is, well, nothing's posted. They don't, ignorance of the law is obviously not an excuse for it, but I think that would help if they were to say, oh, wait a minute, there's a, sign says that I can't do this, because again, I get it's the low income and they need to move out of there, they have rules in the 1,000 Trails, you gotta kind of have a heart sometimes on that stuff, but, I give everyone a warning, second time you're gonna get a citation, and that's.
Well, particularly Antelope Woods, because school's going to be starting again.
Exactly.
So.
And that's where that letter of agency comes in.
And you're working that?
Yes. Well, no, I'm saying if I send a letter to the real estate company that owns it or whatever and got no response. Maybe if it came from you guys, I don't know if that had more weight or, maybe, I don't know, something else there. Because there is one homeless guy back in the private property. I haven't been able to find him, but he's not making a mess and it's a newer tent. Also, the pizza place, Palace or whatever, I've contacted Jonathan a few times. He is waiting, he's on a waiting list for Valley Oasis to find him some housing. Unlike most of the homeless that don't want any services, he actually does want services, and he's not that far gone. Someone, I don't know, we don't know who, and he doesn't want to press charges on it, but came to his tent, took like a machete to it, and butchered it. And he had a couple cardboard boxes where he picks up his own trash and eventually tries to dump it and just trash the whole place. Obviously, this community, you guys all talk and stuff like that. Vigilante is probably not the best idea for this kind of stuff. I am working on this stuff. Please just let me know, shoot me an email, call me and let me know where you see the homeless guys. If I don't see them or whatever, we go contact them. If there's more than 3 in a county area, we have the host team that comes out, and we do offer services first and wraparound services, and then if we have private property, we're able to, we can get the property owners on board, we can then get them for trespassing and stuff like that. But, taking it into your own hands, the frustration if guys aren't moving, like I said, like with Jonathan's case, I check in on him every day. One, because of the heat and everything, it's, I don't want him to die on me, but he has a caseworker, Travis from Valley Oasis, is working with him, and he's on a waiting list.
So the first motion would be about the signs, okay. And the second thing, you would like us to contact the property owners at the end of Antelope Woods?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so let's do one at a time.
Mr. Workman? Yeah. Switch gears a little bit. 2 weeks ago, my vinyl fence was tagged.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
My vinyl fence was tagged in Acton, Okay, out of 16, 17 years, I've never seen it, right?
Okay.
And so, I have family members that work in the sheriff's department. They advised me to call sheriffs. And I was like, I don't want to bother them like this, but I did. And you guys came out, desk at all?
No. So when stuff like that, I'm not going to get everything. Like when I get out in the morning, I'll run the calls for service for the previous day at the end of when I left, and then all the way till when I get on. So that way I get an idea of what happened. If any reports are taken, I take note of them, and then I wait until a couple of days, because it takes a couple of days before they're on our what's called our SecDes system.
I got pictures because it kind of made you guys have, because what
Antelope Woods and
Antelope Woods, labor turnout in other areas of Troy.
And other areas, okay.
We have a second. Any discussion?
Do you have a comment on that?
I did. I actually had a question for Master Martinez. I'm up right on Cedar Croft in Aliso Canyon, or Bent's Burke. A couple of weeks ago,
when the whole world responded?
Pretty much.
Yeah, so there was an audible call next door to the house that we actually never.
But hopefully they like I'm gonna lighten things up a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm actually gonna start it with what's going on tomorrow at the library. Ice cream. End of summer ice cream social, 2 o'clock, right here in this room. Friends of the library are sponsoring it. There's gonna be ice cream and all the fixings to go with it. Come on by. It'll be hot. The ice cream will be great. Let's see, other things going on here at the library. Our children's librarian, she's having an animation station program at the end of August on the 27th. Basically, earlier this year, the Friends donated several iPads to us. She's using those, and we're doing stop motion animation with them. Kids can make their own little short video clips. It should be a lot of fun. They've done it before, and the stuff they come up with is fantastic. Another thing to point out, Friday, August 30th. I'm glad there's a lot of people to hear this. In this room, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., we will be having a blood drive. So I encourage everyone, jump online, make an appointment, give me a call or shoot me an email for an appointment. I can set those up too. But you may have heard there's always a shortage of blood. So they're here, they'll be doing the blood drive all day long. Plenty of appointments still available. And yes, I will be one of the first people there too, so you don't have to worry. And I'm gonna bring up something early September. We're trying something a little different. We are going to be hosting a story time on Saturday, September 7th. But that story time will actually be at Vasquez Rocks over in their classroom in the interpretive center. So if you're out in that neighborhood and feel like going to Vasquez Rocks for a story time, and maybe go hiking or something, come on by. That'll be at 11 a.m. Last thing to mention, and note for you guys too for next month. Monday, September 2nd, the library will be closed for Labor Day. So other than that, any questions, comments, concerns?
What time is the ice cream thing?
2 o'clock. I'll see you.
Is it in Edison no power day? I mean, that works.
You know what? That just means we'll have to eat ice cream faster.
Don't jinx it.
Dry ice.
Thank you. All right, next up, Mr. Vidic.
Hello, my name is Aidin Vidic. I'm with Troop 145 here in Acton, California. A couple months ago, I came in front of the Acton Town Council and asked for your guys' support, which you guys gave. And then I also went in front of the LA Board of Supervisors and asked for their support. They gave me that. I also met with Public Works on Friday and have a draft design, and that's what I was handed out to you guys. So on the front page, it's a sign that is 7 feet wide, and the actual signboard is going to be 3 feet tall. The community logos, the logos of non-profit community organizations. The county will do that it's some that the Chamber of Commerce has asked for, because I went to them first. And the words, the actual words of the sign can be either made out of metal, or they can be routed into the wood. By the way, the signboard is supposed to be made of wood. That's what it's going to be. And then next page, it's going to have metal straps bolted on the back, and it's going to be bolted through the wood. So it's going to, yeah. And there's going to be 2 of them. It's also going to have like a U-channel of wood, of metal around it. So it's kind of like you have the sign and then just
Like a frame.
metal kind of protecting it.
So the
Yeah.
water will not.
Yeah. And then there's 2 bars underneath, and that's for the nonprofit organization logos. And then on the next page, that's the side view, and it has the department, the Public Works. They want to use the same signposts that they use usually for things like stop signs, yield signs, stuff like that. And planks will be 2 by 12, 12 by 2. I mean, sorry, and will be bolted to the signpost. And of course, it will be covered in the stuff I said earlier. Oh yeah, and the thing, the actual signpost, I'm trying to get it covered with a metal sleeve so it kind of looks better and it doesn't really look like it has the same post as like a sign. So, which would make it.
And these are welcome to Acton signs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot to mention. So.
How many is there going to be?
I'll pass this around if anybody wants to.
Now, this is still draft, right?
Yeah, this is a draft. I have to talk to the
Not for publication yet.
Public Works again. I have to talk to them in about a week.
So what does this mean, the county will determine final height? Can you?
It's their choosing based off of safety, so like going around turns, but when I talked to them, they said that they wanted the actual bottom of the sign, the signboard, the board, like the signboard, they want it to be 7 feet high off the ground, and the purpose they told me of that is in case if someone is crashing, is having an accident, or they could go right under it, or they don't want people on bicycles or joggers to just not be fully paying attention and just run into the sign. So
Where are these going to be posted?
there's several locations. If I had I have another packet I could have brought with me, but I didn't. It showed that there was going to be locations. One was going to be in between Acton and Agua Dulce on Sierra Highway, and one was going to be in between Acton and Palmdale on Sierra Highway. Another one was going to be on the road, I forgot.
Soledad?
Yeah, Soledad, and there was another.
Angeles Forest.
Yeah, Angeles Forest, I think.
Basically the 4 corners.
Yeah, 4 corners of Acton, besides the freeway.
I want to add, the reason I ask is, we have a CSD that says, 5 feet, 7 feet. So if you actually have 7 feet underneath this sign's going to be like 15 feet high. And when I had worked with Dustin DeHemmer on the locations, and I know I conveyed that to you, you've looked at them, a lot of them are sort of slightly on a hillside anyway. So I'm wondering, and this wouldn't be something you would do, but maybe we, the town council, can ask the county to consider if they put it on the hillside next to these sites that you've recommended, then they don't need to be 15 feet up in the air, because no driver's going to see that.
Right.
And then there won't be a pedestrian hazard because it'll roll their place. Yeah. Would that?
Yeah, that was one thing I was planning on doing when I was going to talk with them.
Oh, okay. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah,
I think that's
I think about the consistent location, because if it's on the pedestrian, who's gonna pay? Automotive right away.
Before I could get I've already been offered donations. I could also do fundraising, although my troop doesn't like fundraising. I could also,
So if people wanted to help you out money-wise, rather than it coming out of your pocket, how could they go about that?
they could, well, I've really been able to start a fundraising, however, I guess I could, if someone wants to, I could probably give them my information and then I could contact them.
Do you have an estimate of what each sign will cost?
Well, I don't.
Is it too early for that?
Yes, too early.
I encourage you, as you find and gather that information, please let us know so we can help some people that probably would want to help out. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to donate to this Eagle Scout project, you can contact the council, is that fair to say?
Well, yeah, we can post something when he gives us the information, we'll post it. But I think you've asked us to build 4. It's up to the county how many you'll be allowed to build, so there's uncertainty there too, how many you'll be actually be permitted to build. And then the chamber is going to talk to you about, you haven't talked to all these organizations, but they're going to work with you on this, right? Okay.
Oh, to find all the different signs?
Yes.
The nonprofit signs?
But it sounds like the county is willing to do the artwork on that, which is
that's
awesome.
really good.
So, but it's square, right? That's why you're drawing it square.
Yes.
They're square, so. Yeah, I thought that was really good. The county's really been very generous.
Good.
And I appreciate
Something's
that.
coming. Something's coming.
It's that $5 tax. Well, thank you very much.
Is there anything that you need from us for support, or anything that
Not really, no, I just wanted to let you guys know.
Well, appreciate it.
Other than the height issue, I think we
That's
did.
kind of, I do think that's a bit of an issue.
Okay.
I wasn't planning on it being 10 feet tall.
Yeah, because structurally too, that becomes an issue because it's such a big
We-
sign.
yeah.
There are many signs in the county that are not 7 feet tall.
There are a lot of.
Matter of fact, almost every sign, exactly. So I'm kind of curious,
Well,
is it because it's a double post sign, which allows me to pass under it, or?
Well, I think that's right. So under 7 feet, people can walk under it, but that's, in the city, when you have signs on the sidewalk, you need to maybe worry about that.
well, I was going to say, they need to consider where these are going.
Yeah.
It's not like.
And I think they will.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I'm guessing this is another case of kind of, this is the blanket, and then not looking exactly what, oh, you want to put it there.
Over the last couple of months. And, sorry. We've identified concerns with it, we've solicited community comments, we've only gotten comments from Chris Croysdale, and we've incorporated those comments into a list of concerns. I drafted a letter last week and sent it around to the community. A couple of things on this. I actually had a panic attack just before the town council meeting. I realized, well, maybe they've already heard this and didn't tell us about it. So I scoured the hearing officer agenda over the last month and a half and the planning commission agenda over the last month and a half, and nothing. Because we've contacted the planner 3 times in the last month asking for data and not have heard anything from him. It's like crickets. And so we don't have, even anything on this project.
What are we talking about?
The 1,000 trails.
Oh.
And so
Jack,
yes.
maybe you can go look at a little history on the 1,000 trails,
Okay.
so you can real quick, because we have some people that are new.
Okay, I've been giving history on all the meetings. I didn't want to make everybody's eyes glaze, but okay.
Condensed version.
Condensed. All right. So 1,000 Trails was approved in 1981 for 1,000 campsites, 10 campers per campsite, up to. But it has explicit conditions: no large groups, no PA systems, no public use, no people living there. And then it was a CUP that went, a conditional use permit that was issued from 1981 to 1991. Then in 1991, it was renewed for another 15 years. And it actually expired, therefore, in 2006. And in 2007, the property owner came to the town council and said they were putting in 300 low rental, low cost units in that, so they weren't looking to renew their CUP. But residents, you mean? Yes, yes. That project, of course, the community did not support. So then in 2010, they finally submitted a CUP renewal, although technically since their CUP expired, there's nothing to renew. It's a whole new project. However, the county's allowed them to operate since then. And since 2008, there have been a lot of concerns and problems because they've had large Bible revivals there, a lot of PA systems, a lot of the residents in the area have been impacted by that. They advertise for public use. They have people living there. I mean, we have some registered sex offenders there under Megan's Law, so we know it's being used for residents. Our school bus stops there. So a lot of aspects about, and the reason that's a substantial problem, or at least in my opinion, I think we've talked about it a few times, is because when the EIR was adopted in 1981, it says straight up that because there is no residence there, because it's members only, and it's temporary, the septic system has very low chance of contaminating the Santa Clara River because wastewater generation during winter months when it rains will be minimal. But now that we have people living there full time and that it's now open to the public, the conditions under which the EIR was issued now really do not reflect current conditions. And we've talked several times that really this needs a new EIR and it's a whole new CUP. So when I was down at regional planning in Los Angeles in the end of June, I spoke with the planner, his name was Ramon Cordova. He told me that the project is very close to coming to hearing and that they hadn't gotten a comment letter from the town council. And I pointed out to him that the applicant has not come to the town council other than 2008 to say they're putting in the 300 homes. And that we've received nothing from the county in terms of even what the project number is, you know, and what the application is. When I was down there, I looked at some of the paper records, and it looks like they're asking for a permanent CUP without any renewal. So they want to just go forever, among other things. But that was their application in 2010. They've changed their application, but now the county does everything electronically. So the records I looked at are over 2 years old. And so we don't know what recently has happened. So we have asked 3 times now in the last month, sent requests for them to send us their electronic, because we're supposed to give comments on this. And how can we give comments when we don't have anything other than what I've gone down to Los Angeles and scanned and taken pictures of and spent a whole day there. So, so the reason there's so much concern with the water quality is a couple of things. Almost all of their, over 100 of their ground level septic connections for RVs, you know, they're at the ground level, they're in the floodplain, and they're not airtight. And many of their leach fields, from the map I was able to look at from the 90s, looks like they're in the floodplain also. And this is all in county's GIS, you look at the county's GIS system. And so there are concerns that we have of contamination of the Santa Clara River, the watershed, exactly. And the 1981 EIR looked at it, but it minimized it or assumed it would be minimal for conditions because of reasons that no longer exist. So another problem is that the Regional Water Quality Control Board has done an analysis of the Santa Clara River, and it has found at the point west of the Langagey Station, which is just on the Agua Dulce border, that the river is being contaminated and impaired body. It needs a TMDL for fecal coliform and coliform bacteria. Now, when they had a similar situation arise in the Lake Hughes and Lake Elizabeth area for nitrates and phosphorus, they just got adopted a few months ago. The Regional Water Quality Control Board report said that 99.9% of the contaminant did not come from the residential septic areas. There was only less than 0.1%. Nonetheless, all the residents in that area have to retrofit their septics to the tune of $40,000 to up to $40,000. So we're concerned, or I'm concerned, and we looked into this, that if the Water Quality Control Board does more analyses moving east of the river and finds more contamination, the residents of Acton, and potentially Upper Dulce, but it's more Acton more than Watershed, will be blamed for this contamination. So, and potentially, if they have to do a TMDL, we're looking at those retrofit requirements. That has not happened, but it is happening right now to folks in Lake Hughes and Lake Elizabeth. And so my goal is to forestall any eventuality in this community, even if it's in 20 years. So one of the things that I think we need to do is ask that, that the health department and regional planning and all the other agencies, Army Corps of Engineers, because they do the waste to the stream bed permits, that they certify that the Thousand Trails is not contaminating the watershed, or either that or not issue the permit, one or the other. Another problem is that in 2014, the Regional Water Quality Control Board issued an order to Thousand Trails to prepare what's called a Report of Waste Discharge, ROWD, which is a state regulation that was passed in 1997, for all of their 12 septic systems. And that was in 2014, and they haven't done it yet. So another issue is to ask regional planning to not move forward on this CUP until they've complied with the state regulations. A condition that was imposed in the 1991 CUP said that when this expires in 2006, this project now must be brought into compliance with all current regulations then in effect. So they're subject to ROWD because that was adopted in 1997. So, you know, there's a number of regulations. Now, RV parks, like mobile home parks, fall largely under a state regulation umbrella, right? However, the state, HDC, Housing and Community Development Department, HCD, that's a state agency. They have delegated permit authority for septic systems to the county health department. So it still rolls back to the county health department. So that's where we're going on this. Now, I submitted a Public Records Act request to the county to review the septic records at 1,000 Trails. I went to the county office on Thursday, and I was given a copy of a permit that was issued recently for 12 new laundry washers, but I was not permitted to look at the file. I was told straight out I was not allowed to look at the file, which is, if you know anything about the Public Records Act, that is completely illegal. So I haven't addressed that yet, but I have not been able to go beyond what that one permit that was a perfectly fine permit, but it was for laundry facilities, so they're not really the concern of, you know, contaminating the river with, you know, black water.
Depending on where it's going, though, if it's going into the septic.
Well, it is, but I'm mostly worried about black water.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's impacting because it's another load on the septic.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm also bothered by, and we mentioned this, our water haulers they're renewing their CUP. They submitted CUP applications for renewal on time. And they're being told by the county they have to do a hydrology study. Well, Thousand Trails is a huge water user, but they're not being told that they have to do a hydrology study, which I don't understand. I really don't understand. So
I've only been there once, but don't they have that pond, that lake there? And isn't that lake fed by the underground river?
I think all their water comes from the water.
So if they have such an old septic system, the likelihood that that pond is thoroughly contaminated and it could seep back into the river.
I don't, yep, those are
What
all.
you're talking about up at Lake Hughes and Lake Elizabeth, that's a perfect storm right there. What you say is going on, and it's a horrible thing.
Well, that's the difficulty. I'm not saying it's going on.
No, but
I'm saying that we need to
indication
investigate
it's possible.
this. Exactly. It needs.
It's an old system, you know?
Their septic system dates back, I think some of it. Here's the other part. Here's the other part that was a little problematic. They approved the EIR in 1981 and then designed the septic system. So the septic system wasn't designed. In the EIR, they said, oh, they're just going to design the septic system in compliance with regulations. Well, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. I can't seem to get to their septic records. So
For how many spaces and for what use? You know, what was it designed for?
1,100 campsites, 10 people per.
And it's way over that now, and has been for years.
Well, people are living there and it's used by the public. So the expectation in the EIR was that
Usage would
be
wane.
minimal in the winter when wastewater rates wastewater rates would be minimal in the winter when flooding and inundation were highest potential. So we drafted, I drafted a letter based on all of our and then of course incorporating all of Chris's concerns with concertina wire PA system, the no access off that south, whatever gate it was. Anyway, so I drafted a letter about that, and I can't figure out when the hearing's gonna happen. I can't figure out when the county's ever gonna give us data.
Can you tell me who the planner is? It's just
Ramon Cordova, who I love to death.
So why isn't he responding to you?
I don't know. I don't know. He's the one who told me in the middle of the beginning of June.
Yeah,
that it was
like imminent.
pending. That's why I said we gotta get it on the agenda.
I mean, I just think it's really unusual that he's not responding to us, and that you said 3.
You've seen the emails. They're in the, because I CC the town council, so I don't understand it. And if the county's contemplating the use of the campsites as interim housing or temporary housing or bridge housing, as Ken said, it's temporary. I know you're saying.
Nobody said they should use Thousand Trails or COA to meet, so that's.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but it has been floated, okay, at the ARTC meeting.
The source of this is
in June.
ARTC meeting, right?
At the ARTC meeting in June, Connie Chung specifically asked what, because they're revising the ordinance, what if we change the ordinance that eliminates the prohibition on residences in campgrounds? What if we wrote an ordinance that allowed safe parking in, churches and other areas? So I get
And
it.
that was pretty much shut down there, that right here.
Not that I.
No, I said the ATC.
At the ARTC, no, that was not well regarded.
Hey, but you know what, when Connie Chung, who's advanced planning, and Connie is an awesome gal, when she tells you that's what they're thinking about, that train has already left the station, and it's moving, and we gotta pull it back and say, because here's what I think, you can do anything you want, as long as it doesn't contaminate the river, and it doesn't affect residents. You can film all you want, just don't contaminate the river or affect residents, it has to be balanced. So, and I'm not seeing any evidence of balance yet. And so I'm very concerned about it. I don't know, does anybody have any comments on?
I think it's unusual to me that we're not
The
getting a
pool
response.
got fixed, I was there last weekend, and they were using it, and so whatever the issue was with the pool, looks like it's good to go now.
I didn't know there was an issue.
Yeah, there was, I
Yeah.
heard about it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not,
Yeah, were they invited to come speak or anything?
yes, we sent an email, the first email to Ramon was sent on.
Lisa's the new manager.
Okay, not Fiore, let's see,
No,
first
it's not
email
Kathy anymore, it's somebody.
was sent Monday, June 24,
I thought it was a male that was in charge there now, but it's a female.
asking him to let Thousand Trails know that it's going to be on the agenda and inviting him to come. And he said he couldn't make it. So then we, in July 1, said, let's ask the county for a meeting. So we sent an email to Mr. Perry and to Ramon to put together a meeting, never heard anything. And then, so that was the third time. So I think we did reach out to Ramon, asked, and he said he contacted Thousand Trails. And it's been agendized like 3 times this summer. And maybe if somebody's here from Thousand Trails, they can speak, that would be great, so we know what's going on, but anyway.
Well, so what do we want to do?
We'll to find out what's going on.
Before we submit our letter?
Yeah.
So there's no hearing date.
Well, we're given it.
But it's not on the council.
The only thing I know for certain is it hasn't been heard in the last 6 weeks by either planning commission or the hearing officer.
And then we were told it was imminent.
Yeah, that they're ready to go, and I did see a letter, dated April 19, 2019, April something, I think it was 19, saying, from Thousand Trails, the property owner, saying, what's the delay, we want our hearing. So they're wanting their hearing, which they have a right to.
So maybe Chuck can find.
That's why I was asking who the plan was. I'll check. I've got a proposal out in Hanover Acres, a solar field thing that hasn't been scheduled for hearing. I keep asking, when have you scheduled a hearing? And I can do the same on that. That's why I work.
Okay.
So I'll check with them and I'll let you know tomorrow.
I'd appreciate that,
Yeah.
but honestly, I think at least we should tell the county about this regional water quality control board thing and the reported waste discharge requirement, because frankly, I don't think they should schedule for a hearing. They should pull it back and do this thing right with the EIR and the ROWD. It's done.
Well, so here's the question, do we want to put that in the letter? 'Cause
I
we don't
can
want
do-
that. So, I mean,
we
like,
can
can we
do
do,
whatever we want.
yeah, I mean, because if we can do the things we know
Has to be done.
yeah, have to be done, and then we can address, and they're also basically saying, we can't even speak to anything else, this is what we know, we haven't been.
Well,
given
we can phrase it differently. Maybe we can ask for the results of those steps.
Ask
They're
for the
supposed-
results of the ROW.
Right,
Oh, so
they're supposed to be done.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't,
And if they
see, I
haven't
don't
been
think county even knows, because there's two different groups. The county doesn't know what the state has done, and the health department doesn't know what the county's done.
Which side of Lang Station was this declaration by the state?
It just said east of Langate Station.
So east of Lang Gate, so that's the Acton Agadosa area. It's not,
I don't know.
it's Los Angeles Regional Water Quality Control Board made this declaration?
Yeah, it's actually, if you look at their website, they call it under Reach 9, it used to be called Reach 7, now it's Reach 9. But I'm not, yes.
Jeremiah, I like your suggestion that we put this into a letter.
Yeah, I think we put it in, and I think.
Because we've dealt with it then,
And we've cited.
So, but
concerns
not
that we
all
can't-
the things,
No,
just
the ones
just-
that we know are like the tangible, you know, that we're concerned about, and then I think we highlight that we don't know what else to be concerned about or to support, because we don't.
How about the EIR thing? Well, then, yes, we
Yeah,
need to
absolutely,
request
yeah.
that they.
I would classify that as things that we know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Would you guys
So-
like me to go to Thousand Trails and contact the manager to reach out to you guys?
Sure.
Yeah, we thought, I think Ramon already has, but yeah, that would be.
I'll stop by.
Yeah, that would be
I'll go there, I
excellent.
mean, I'll go there first and say, hey, they want to talk to you, email them.
So, let me do this then, because what I can do is the letter I've already presented and sent around, I will put in red the things I think we want to keep, but not take out the other things, and then you can decide to agree or disagree. Because I don't want to cut it out if it's something you guys want. So-
Yeah,
exactly. Okay, all right. So
Yeah,
so RWQCD, EIR, and then the stuff about the impaired bodies.
Yes.
Okay, and why we're
Yeah,
concerned.
absolutely.
Is that it?
Well, and I do think like I said, we don't know what we can support or not support based upon the fact we don't know what the rest is in there. So
Yeah.
that
And
we
we don't know
asked,
what to present to the community as well.
and, you know, we've reached out several times and have got no response on two fronts, so we're trying. But these are the things we do know about,
Okay.
and these are the things we have initial concerns about.
Okay. Okay.
I like that idea a lot.
Okay. So I move that we write a letter on the hot topics. That way Kelly doesn't have to get ready. Or actually, maybe you should make. So I summarized all this in an email. We can put it in a formal letter, but you were concerned
Oh,
about.
I know we got it all. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So, you got everything you need to deal with cactus. If you don't know what Cactus Creek, does everyone know what Cactus
Yeah,
Creek is?
so,
It's the property across from the community center on Smith that has a lot of.
Very familiar.
that's all you need to know.
That's all I need to know.
It's not permitted.
It's not permitted.
anything.
So obviously it's not, okay.
Well, and it's right there, right next to the river. It's literally what, it's like
Across the street.
a quarter of a mile, it's 1,000 feet from the river. So you can't be, be pounding on 1,000 trails and then just not be concerned about this. So an old timer way back 10 years ago told me that there was a house there in the 50s. But there doesn't seem to be, Public Works has no record of even a permit for a house. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't a permit for a house, but to
They
the,
just can't find it.
I have turned over every rock available to me.
It could have been something built in the 30s, and who even knows if there were.
I remember you and I talked to Tom Hale years ago about that.
Yep, that was
And he
10 years
said,
ago, yeah.
at least, yeah. So, it's not there now.
The house.
The house is there.
Well, yeah, the house,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean,
Well, it's got the trailers around it, doesn't
you
it?
Yeah.
can't even hide.
Yeah. So, anything you could do, hopefully that information will
And
be.
I was just sitting there wondering, what can I say anything? I'm like, well, everything I see has like attorney-client privilege written on it, so I should. So it's with the counties, so we're aware of it. I saw your thing. I said, what are we gonna do?
Well,
See,
since this
it's here.
community wants to protect the river,
Yes.
can you
Well-
help us protect the river?
We will say that's another reason.
Polluting the land.
You don't have a record of one there, so he's not gonna get.
That's right. Yeah, for all we know, there was an septic
He's
tank.
all free. And we're,
They plummeted in next door.
uh,
Because there have been people that have come to our meetings and said they don't have trash collection and they don't have a septic system.
right?
So,
And they smell it.
They smell it.
And they walk across the street to the community club and put the trash in the dumpster until we put a lock on it.
All right.
And Cal's putting up the trespassing sign.
Oh, is he? Okay.
So hopefully you'll be able to hit it out of the park.
Those-
Hit them out of the
I
park.
think those county council people could hit it out.
yeah, maybe county council could issue a statement to the community of Acton, what's happening. That doesn't violate their attorney-client privileges. Aren't we the clients?
Yeah?
Or we do just forward inquiries to, although Trey, you had an email about it. Oh, am I confused? You want to share what you heard of?
Well, no, that's fine. It was kind of related to what Deputy Martinez talked about. The person that got arrested, he was moving in between the trailer park and things. But we had an incident where our car on our property got broken into. Through a series of things, we found out who it was that did it. And they were coming in and out of that trailer park. And we happened to be out of town. We just landed in Virginia last week. And we got text messages saying that they were actually trying to apprehend the guy. So he's out here for a while. Hopefully, I've been talking to the district attorney when his court case comes up next week to make sure that he hopefully doesn't come back to the community for a while. So.
Come in and said, Apollo Park used to be this beautiful place, we can go and fish, we used to have fish in it, and now it's not really a very nice place to go. And he thought that if it was maybe a little energy got put into it by Park and Restoration, that it might be a place that Acton residents might want to visit more often. So I think what he was asking for us is possibly to contact Parks and Recreation and see if they're interested in possibly doing anything, but I haven't been there to look at it, and I think we need somebody that needs to take a look and see.
I was out there probably about a year to 18 months ago.
Okay.
But not, I would say, not recent enough to probably make
Okay.
a judgment on if that has trailed off, but.
Yeah. So I'll volunteer to go take a look.
Okay.
And see, he said that there were offers from Fish and Game to stock it. I don't know if that's still a
Fish and Game used to stock
Fish and Game
Lake
stock.
Elizabeth.
Yeah,
One of the
Lake Elizabeth.
controversies is whether or not they should stock it with trout. There's, some people are saying it should be stocked with catfish because the water's obviously so warm and brown that it's not trout habitat.
The trout will float up in the summertime.
It'll be easy to catch.
Yeah. So I don't know if people really want catfish, and so I have not checked with parks. I just
Catfish
know
is
that's
good if you know how to cook it.
yeah, I don't know. I don't even want to look at the things, much less.
They're ugly, but they taste good.
So we're taking noodling?
Yeah. So anyway, it's.
I mean, I hate to think it's what to put in it that would keep it from being stocked.
I think he was saying. I think the guy who was here last time said carp, and I thought, was it carp that he was saying?
No, he said tilapia. It's a farm
Tilapia,
fish.
that's
I mean,
tilapia.
that would be a possibility.
So I don't know. It doesn't hurt to say, look at it.
For tilapia and catfish breeds.
But, you know, if people are interested in, and it's something that we, we'll take a look at and then maybe write a letter or.
Yeah, I know they're still stocking it. I don't know how long they're living because I know that one of the complaints I dealt with, I think last summer, was that a guy from like Little Rock was complaining that the stocking dates weren't announced ahead of time because he wanted to know when it was stocked so he could go over and catch it. And Parks and Rec told me, well, we don't do that because that's when everybody shows up and they just empty out the lake.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we can take a look.
And if you write to Parks and Rec, send us a copy of it.
Okay.
Well, also, if it's something that we want to do, I would suggest we also ask ARTC to.
Rogers has a much wider reach than us.
And they actually live there.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So, I'll go take a look at it next, in the future, and we'll get back, and then if we want to bring it up with ARTC.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
I thought it was important since the resident came in and talked about it, because, somebody takes the time to come in.
Yes.
And he talked about a lot of things, but, this is something that maybe, we really don't have any place to put it, unless you can afford it better. And many people can, so.
All right. All right, Edison fire prevention, grid hardening, helicopter use update.
Okay, that I asked to have this put on the agenda. I actually would like to know what this community would like us to do. The emails, well, the meeting we had at the beginning of June, we were told by Edison under no uncertain terms, helicopters would stop. They asked for 2 more days. We said okay. And then the helicopters went away for about a month. And then they lit up on social media. Nobody bothered to email the town council, which we've asked for. And I was gone. But when I came back, I followed up, since we had not voted as town council to do this, I wrote it out of my personal email. And I reminded Edison that the plan that was approved by the PUC does not allow them to use helicopters to do their monitoring, because all the monitoring can be done by ground-based trucks. The Public Utilities Commission only authorized ground-based vehicles for this purpose. And Edison has started up using their helicopters again. So the next day, there were no more helicopters, at least that I know of. I'm not on social media like you guys are. But then on Friday, I think Ms. Seelman from Edison sent us the advice letter that they had sent to Public Utilities Commission on their activity, which it doesn't matter to me what their advice letter is. Just a mechanism that investor-owned utilities like Edison and PG&E send to the Public Utilities Commission saying, this is how we're implementing this. They could say anything they want in their advice letter. The only thing that matters is what the Public Utilities Commission approved. And the Public Utilities Commission did not approve the use of helicopters for this activity. The other thing that Ms. Seelman said in her email is we might use helicopters to install power poles. And so I pointed out to her in the email I sent her, I identified all the projects that because I deal with Edison all the time, Albert Hill, Valley South, Tri-Tip. Under all of those projects that the PUC approved, they have never needed helicopters to install transmission, sub-transmission, or distribution lines any place where there's ground-mounted equipment. And in fact, the Albert Hill project that's going on right now, the Valley Glen portion of it, they said it straight up that they're going to put in 30 miles of 115 kV sub-transmission line and not use a single helicopter to do it, because it's all accessible by ground and they can do it all by trucks. So all of our power poles here are accessible by ground, and those that are not, maybe helicopters would be appropriate. So I told her that before they deploy any helicopters to put up any power poles, they need to let us know where they're going to be and why they need helicopters. But it doesn't seem to, the message does not seem to be getting through. And I'm frustrated by it, and I just like to know there are things we can do involving communication to the administrative law judge or directly to President Picker and the other public utilities commissioners. An open letter, they have changed their rules. Now you can write letters to them and they'll, on matters before them, and they will consider them. Before you couldn't do that, you had to be a party in the proceeding. So, but I don't know if that's what the community wants to do, what we want to do, what the community wants us to do.
Well, they were definitely in my neighborhood this last week.
So they're replacing the pole on my property tomorrow.
And they're probably
With a
gonna do that.
helicopter?
Oh, I don't know.
Is
Well-
the pole is
It's
on
on my
right
property.
So this is all on county franchise right away, by the way. Yeah. So county's in the loop on this, no offense.
Right,
but,
so
you know.
they have to, they had to request that our gates be left open.
How did you get that request, by the way?
Phone
And how far in advance?
last week.
So are they using a helicopter?
No, they didn't tell us.
Well, you don't know.
No, I don't know.
The poles they put in on Aliso Canyon,
I'll find out tomorrow.
they've done with truck, the replacements.
Okay.
Because our neighbor had got a new pole put.
Okay.
They did that one with truck.
And I will say that I have yet to see any helicopters that were hauling a pole. They,
No.
so
That's why I
There was
was-
one posted on Facebook where someone took a picture of the
yeah.
helicopter.
The majority is
With
just
a pole?
flying.
With a pole, but it was up on a hill, so it could have been.
that would be a case that would fit the criteria where we said, okay, if you can't get a truck on the side of the hill, okay, fine. But I mean, I saw
Her email to me was straight up, we're also going to be using helicopters to put up poles. And she didn't say only in areas that are inaccessible by ground.
I mean,
So,
this afternoon as I was coming up Sierra, down between like Sleepy Valley and Ponderosa Canyon Road, they were in some pretty hairy area with trucks.
yeah, because they have
So it's
easements to
like-
all their poles.
Yeah, so
Okay,
I-
just for the record, I'm sorry to
No,
step
that's
on you,
good.
but that before 2008, almost no helicopters were used for any transmission, sub-transmission, or distribution line construction. This is brand new in the last 10 years. So there's,
But the guy from Edison said they've been doing that since the 50s.
not with helicopters, they haven't.
That's what he said.
That's what he said, and we have it on tape.
But he also told you that he forgot to let you know that he was coming on and he needs to get on your property. And,
Well, I know, she's being.
no, I don't doubt.
No, I'm not being facetious, he said that.
I don't doubt.
He said that.
1950 helicopter can lift like one person, and maybe they're, and, you know, maybe one more.
So you understand the extent of the abuse of this community on helicopters. What they did on Tri-Tip, they would use helicopters to deliver lunch to those guys.
Never lived through it.
I mean, hundreds of tracks every day, these poor people of Angeles Forest Highway and Aliso Canyon had to deal with.
Yeah.
Send people into, talk about PTSD, it was awful.
I don't know how everybody feels about the helicopter thing in general. She also said in that email response to you, that they would be using helicopters for monitoring because they felt that they can monitor with the helicopter more effectively or get monitoring they cannot do from the ground.
Well, you know
She
what?
stated that in there, and we're not talking about placing poles, we're talking about general
Which is what
monitoring.
we.
And the monitoring is when the helicopter is 50
Yeah.
feet off your, hovering over your front yard at 50 feet for extended amount of time, and you're wondering what the heck they're doing. So Edison
Well,
does
she
what
makes
Edison
it-
wants. They
well-
don't seem to care what they're supposed to do, and I'll have a little anecdotal story for it in a minute about what, how they treated us. So,
Obviously, they were looking at my pole.
Well,
when they were hovering over that.
no, the pole inspection was about a year and a half ago, because we got a note on our gate and said we need to inspect the pole. Fine. They came, they drew a little core sample on it, they took a bunch of notes, came back, our pole remains. Other people's poles got replaced due to age or rot or whatever reason. So,
well, Edison's gonna do what Edison's gonna do, that might be true, but we have things that we can do. Because Edison, using a helicopter without showing a need for it is beyond the pale. And the commission would not be happy if it knew the extent to which Edison is violating its own approved plan. And at a minimum, the commission would order Edison to identify how much helicopter they're going to use. They're supposed to just determine environmental impacts of this. An hour of a helicopter use dumps out all kinds of CO2. I mean, 35 pounds or something, depending on the size of the helicopter, which is a huge greenhouse gas emission. And there are all these requirements for them to assess these impacts. So if they need to do helicopters, they need to quantify how much, and the hours, and have a permit on it, and the PUC will do all of those things if they know about it. But if the PUC doesn't know about it, then It's a heavy lift.
Well, if we're gonna do heavy lifting, personally, I would like to be more doing our heavy lifting on our fire prevention preemptive cutoff, which is, to me,
Okay.
a far more,
The PSPS?
the PSPS, far more detrimental to the community
And
than.
we're not even to the worst part of the year, we're already getting.
Right. I mean, we've already had 2 notices that says this could happen.
Yes.
It hasn't happened, but how do you plan for things that you don't know are gonna happen?
Yeah, Edison says prepare. How? They don't
Well,
tell
there's
us
no
what
time
do.
to prepare.
Yep.
But so, you know, we got a little window, 3 days, 4 days, it could happen, it couldn't happen. It is so disruptive to think that I can't go to the market and buy meat, I can't buy milk because my power might go off and the stuff's gonna rot. I can't work at home, I have to go find some place to work. So you go and you make plans to go maybe to the library or a friend's house or something to work, and then it doesn't happen. And it's just, if the.
Well, what do you think, I don't disagree with this, but I never bring a problem up without having, this is what you should do to fix it. And I don't know what argument
Well, we missed
to
the
make.
boat, because if Edison told us they were gonna come and harden all our power poles with insulated wires, because the copper is so dangerous, maybe they should have just ran this crap underground instead of spend all this money on insulated aluminum that's probably gonna be replaced in 10 years. It's, you know, if it's too dangerous to have on in the summertime, they should have fixed it.
I agree.
You know, I was looking today, driving along, and all these long transmission runs, or distribution, I guess is the proper term, almost all of them are in easements where they could have undergrounded it very easily. No more pole maintenance, no more wind problems, none of that stuff. And you won't find a development anywhere, in any city or any county, where they put power above ground anymore. So they came in and they did all this stuff because they said, this stuff's dangerous. But they didn't solve the problem. Now they said, this stuff's dangerous, and we should shut the power.
Yeah,
So why
I
do
don't
we do all this
understand.
insulated wire stuff if they're gonna shut the power?
I don't understand that. I don't understand. I don't know. That I don't, it isn't clear to me why.
And if they would have, I mean, if we had any idea this was coming, we had no idea this was coming. This is like, okay, here we're doing it, right? 4 weeks ago,
Yeah,
8
but
weeks
she,
ago.
when they came and talked to us.
No, they had already started.
It was already
Not
started.
only they had already started, the day before the PUC issued their proposed decision. I mean, the doors
So
already
community
shut.
had no ability to comment, you know, and, you know, obviously they're gonna go and say, oh, well, we gotta raise our rates now because we just did X millions of dollars of pole improvements, which should have been put underground.
Well,
Because obviously it's not safe above ground.
the proceeding is still open because, and it'll be open for another couple of years. And there is, as long as we're willing to accept the record as it stands. Off the freeway about 2 weeks ago, that was a gold and green helicopter
Yeah,
ship,
yeah.
so that was pretty clear.
And
So
we
it's gold and
do
green.
fly lower, and then if, you know, we're chasing some of the guys on loudspeakers, they have, even the helicopter has sirens. I mean, they don't use them too much, but they do have sirens and stuff on that. And there usually be lots of little guys running on the ground.
Yeah, I talked to the deputy, because I was loaded for bear, I'm like, oh, no, they didn't. And then I talked to the sheriff's guy, he goes, no, that's ours. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I know we don't get the sheriff helicopter very often, but they do exist.
They fly around a lot.
So, yeah.
But they're green and gold, so.
Yes, very obvious.
So is that what you guys wanted, do you want to explore the, I'll do some research and then.
I think it's worth it. I think that if we're already getting this in July, which isn't even like our windy part of the year, I cannot imagine what October and November will look like.
Yeah.
They may as well just block out the whole month and say.
They may as well block out the whole summer,
Yeah.
you know.
So,
I'm gonna need some help from you guys on the records of the PSPS. Because I was not here for a lot of that.
Simple tasks that are not technical. I'm more than happy.
All right, so I guess I move that we seek intervenor status on the CPU proceeding for, I'm talking slowly for Kelly.
no,
Status on the
CPUC proceeding for SCE's wildland fire mitigation plan.
Yeah, I'll second the motion. Now, my wife Tracy has contacted a couple of the local assemblymen, and Will's office has gotten back to us, and they suggested that we file a complaint with the CUCP.
That's another path.
And before that, because before they can get involved, they need residents, they need to have that complaint filed. And so that's going to happen. So if anybody else is bothered by the fact that they're going to turn your power off when they think that you may, that their lines may be in conditions that could start a fire, and they can't turn it back on for 3 days because they've got to inspect the size of a small city, then you need to file a complaint with the CUCP as well.
Or about the helicopters.
Or about the helicopters, because the more...
Wildlife, livestock.
Sorry, yeah, but for any of those reasons.
Or if you didn't get a notice. Now, this is a question, I think this is a fair question to ask, unless you want to know what you say about the dog.
Okay.
So,
Oh, yeah.
So we have a power pole on our property, about middle of the property. So it's not, it's an easement, but it's not on county right.
Okay.
And in the past, when Edison needed to look at that pole for one reason or another, they put a little note on the gate and they'd say, we're going to come by or whatever, and they come, no big problem. A month ago, when all this started, my wife wrote an email to Liz Seelman and said, hey, we know you're doing all this work. We have a pole on our property, and at some point, I'm sure you're going to have to get to it. And
We might be on
please let us know,
vacation.
'cause we're planning a vacation. And she said, oh, no problem. We don't need to do whatever, and we're not going to turn the power off today. The response was kind of all over the
Well,
place.
she didn't address it. She addressed something else,
Access to the property.
which incoherent.
So we're out for the day, and you were home. I was out.
I was home by myself.
The wife and the kids were at home, and we have 2 dogs, 2 wolf dogs, and they cornered a man on our property, coming up to the front door.
Jumped the fence.
Jumped the fence, walked up the driveway to the front door on a Sunday because they needed access to the property on Monday.
And he said he was in a panic and he needed to get a hold of me, and if my dogs would hurt him.
And he forgot to let you know ahead of time.
Yeah, we were
He
never
just jumped
notified,
up- he just
even though
jumped.
we asked to be notified and reminded them that they needed access. The guy jumps the fence. I mean, the dogs were going to rip him apart, but he didn't do that.
So what would have happened if the dogs did? Would you guys be?
I don't know. That's the whole problem.
Yeah,
And
of course
then-
we would be.
And then what really makes this frustrating, he says, well, I said, Edison hasn't told us when you're coming. He said, Edison has nothing to do with this. We're the contractor. And at that point, I said, well, if that's the case, then I don't think I need to allow access for you guys. Because if Edison isn't going to tell us that this is their contractor, and if Edison isn't going to say this contract is fully bonded and insured and everything is fine, then why are we giving them access to our property? It's a bit...
And I called Liz that Sunday, right when it happened, and she never apologized for that. I'm done with Liz. I'm not working with Liz anymore.
But
I'm going above
The
Liz.
contractor just going to jump the fence because somebody didn't do their due diligence to let you know. And I don't know what the legalities are on utility easements, but I thought they have to notify you in a reasonable amount of time,
And
something
if he
like that.
doesn't, I don't even think that whatever insurance they have when they're bonding would apply, because they're not operating within the constraints under which the bonds and insurance, E&O insurance and liability insurance is issued. So when I get E&O for my business or liability, if I work outside the boundary of what that liability insurance allows, then my insurance doesn't kick in. So Chuck, what would happen?
If a wolf dog ate somebody? I don't know. A whole wolf dog.
Look, Edison's talked to you guys.
No, but
I know that Edison's talked to you.
But the whole trespass, possibly something negative happening during that trespass?
Well, obviously you can get sued for anything, for any reason at all. We've had crazy court cases of the burglars falling through the roof and suing the property owner and stuff like that. And we had Supreme Court justices recall over that. So yeah, I've got no clue as to what happens there. I just know that there's a lot of properties in the Antelope Valley with fences around them and dogs inside them. And those are places I just never went to.
total.
Well, you're not an Edison non-contractor.
Yeah, yes, so that doesn't seem like that was a wise thing to
And
do.
we're not worried about the Edison guy getting hurt, because these dogs are, they're not vicious dogs, they're sweet dogs. I'm more worried about my animals getting out, my animals,
Maybe he could have.
getting hurt somehow?
Or maybe just a bad guy saying, I'm an Edison contractor, that's why I'm on your property, and he's really just casing
Of
around.
which there's a gazillion roaming around the
Yeah.
valley trying to sell you
And
with
that is a
stuff.
very common
Yeah.
scam.
Yes. Yeah, I've got an announcement on that too. So.
Yeah.
Gazillion bad guys or a gazillion salespeople?
Well, there's a gazillion guys claiming to be Edison salespeople who are coming and ringing your doorbell.
Right,
Well, I
but
was
they say,
afraid for my life.
with
There you go.
utility, and we need to have access, and, we need to check the fuse box.
Yeah,
I think it's just movies can start out that way.
And they're just like
So,
disconnecting your
the whole
alarms.
fact that they operate in this manner, is just, yeah.
Disregard
I
for
see your screenshot.
privacy.
Any disregard, because, and
Screenshot you asked for was just
the arrogance that he had, that he was the contractor, and Edison had nothing to do with the work,
Good night, Joyce.
Yeah, that's,
it was incredible.
that's bizarre to me.
It is way. I'd like to see him jump a fence out in Lake LA or something. He'd probably show up this. You know, I mean.
It's shocking.
So, all these things I think need to be addressed when we, it's the way.
Well, I'm addressing that in my own personal
Yeah,
Well,
letter.
that's good, because, and if anybody else wants to file a complaint, that's, I think,
But a lot of these county agencies are like that too. We're finding out with our own little adventure we're going through. I mean, we told them after they come and inspect our property, it's like, you guys can't come back anymore without a warrant, or you tell us. Like the health department just shows up on their own when we're not home, peruses our yard, and it's like,
you're kidding.
we've already told you, you can't come on our property. We have signs posted up that says no trespassing. Because we know why, you know, you guys know why. But
No,
it's like they
that-
just,
that-
they
the
just
county-
show up and do whatever they want.
We
It's
can't
like,
do that.
what's that?
So we can't do that.
That's what I mean, that's what's frustrating, I don't understand it, it's like private property, you know? And there's false accusations on top of that, but, you know.
So for this gigantic make-work project, we just end up getting punished, you know?
Okay, so I think we had a second.
We did.
Any discussion? Do you want to take a vote, anything else?
Sure.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion's carried.
So Jackie, I will help you any way I can.
Okay.
I just don't have the legal technical
No
knowledge
worries,
to have
I-
over this stuff, so.
It'll take, I need like 2 solid days, which I won't have. I have surgery tomorrow, so
Point
maybe
me
Thursday and
for
Friday.
research or reading or whatever.
Okay.
I can do that.
I'll make dinner for you, Jackie. I don't know how else to help you with this. What would you like?
Thanks, Pat.
Margaritas.
I can do that
Too
too.
good one.
That letter could be really interesting. All right, joint council septic sampler repairment update.
Okay, this is to me, right?
Well, that kind of falls in with the other, with the,
Yeah. Well, we did
Well,
ask.
they reached out,
Yes, we did.
they said kicked it to.
No, they said they wanted to
Yeah,
participate.
but
It's
Yeah.
responsible. We have
Yes.
is that responsible?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and they want to work on it, but we agreed to maybe pick it up like in September-ish.
Yes, because, the
Yes.
beginning part of September, because they had folks out there were taking time off.
Yes.
Okay, well, I just wanted.
So I don't have an update, so we'll have to pick that up. But now it might get bumped a little bit more because of this PUC thing. but-
Yeah, but we gotta reach out to them and try to get a date on the calendar instead of, because if we leave it open-ended, I think.
Okay, so ask for
I
a
put it
date.
on there just so we make sure we keep it.
Yeah, well, and we're close to September, even if it's the end of September, at least like get something on the calendar so that we.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got the announcements in correspondence.
All right. Yeah, no, yeah.
First of all, big day tomorrow at the PUC, Board of Supervisors. Okay, so 6 days ago, on Tuesday, we received an email from the Sustainability Office that they have revised the sustainability plan. And that it's going to the board tomorrow. So I have not had a chance to read the whole document, but I did look for the specific items that we, raised. And I have to say that I was very happy to see that a lot of the concerns were addressed. However, let me see where I proposed, I did a draft letter that I sent around a couple of days ago when I had a chance, and the two issues are that I see remaining are they're addressing the groundwater basins, that they shouldn't. There's Action 41 that has activity for groundwater basins, and we said that shouldn't happen if the state has already declared your groundwater basin to be not overdrafted, so therefore it's already sustainable. So re-emphasizing that. That did not get fixed, at least not the way it should have been. The other thing is that addressing distributed generation versus
That was very good.
large, a utility scale generation. And then, so I thought, just for the heck of it, I'd look at the motion itself, all right? And then I was flabbergasted. I don't know, Chuck, if you read the motion. It looks like it was written by a high school, or no, I'm sorry, a 6th grade cheerleader. It's our first ever sustainability plan. And then
it's an aspirational document rather than a regulatory.
That is what
the county aspires to.
However, you need to read that motion, because that motion, among other things, says it is the county's strong commitment to implementing the sustainability plan, and it declares that the sustainability plan is the strategic vision for the future sustainability of Los Angeles. It directs staff to prioritize elements of the plan for near-term implementation, and it mandates annual progress reports on implementing the sustainability plan. It even ties employee appraisal to how successfully those employees implement the sustainability plan. Now, the problem I have with that is that...
because I think we created or are creating a new sustainability department division.
You already did.
Yeah.
They wrote this. So the problem I have, honestly, is where am I? Is under the California Environmental Quality Act, you have got to prepare an environmental document for any plan that you're going to implement. The only time you can avoid CEQA is if the plan you're developing is merely a planning study for possible future action, okay? And even then, you have to do an environmental assessment, okay? It doesn't have to be a full EIR, but you still have to assess the environmental impacts. When you read that motion, and it says we're implementing this today, and we're going to...
No, it says we're going to, you guys come back with some really important stuff for us to implement soon, isn't that what it says?
No, it says we are implementing the plan, come back and prioritize the elements to us, and we will not only go forward with getting them done and in the order that you bring it back to us on, but we're also going to tie your department heads' salaries to whether or not you achieve them. It's clear this plan is being implemented. It is subject to CEQA. I am shaking with anger. I cannot believe they changed the plan because we pointed this out. Hey, this is something you're implementing. This is subject to CEQA. They changed the language in the plan. But you know what? The motion is part of the law on this and what's being adopted. And when the Board of Supervisors directs A to do 1, 2, and 3, that is a plan that's being implemented, not just, how does CEQA put it? This is right out of case law from CEQA. A planning study for possible future action. There's nothing possible about every one of these action items. I am fit to be tired. And so we have a letter about this. But if Supervisor Barnes...
You say CEQA in there? Do you say that?
That's the first part. And you guys need to...
Can you send that over?
Yeah, you guys need to not... Okay. I wrote this out just because I was so angry, but I'm going to read it. So much of my professional life hinges on the proper implementation of CEQA. And I work with people on both sides of the CEQA aisle. Those trying to get projects done, and those just trying to get projects impacts mitigated. It's devastating to me to see the county act with such disdain towards a regulation that I continually seek to preserve from abuse by both sides of the aisle. I am blown away by this motion, Chuck. And
I can't overstate how upsetting the whole thing is to me. You need to not approve this till you've done an environmental document, or change the language in that motion. It's, and I have surgery tomorrow, I can't testify. I would give anything for one of you guys to go up to Lancaster. It's a date certain, it's going to be heard at 11 o'clock. It's a
So
set.
then you don't have to worry about waiting around for 6 hours while people say also.
But I'm.
Starting at 11.
Yes, so at 11 o'clock, just, if anyone can do it, that would be great.
Have you sent this over, this email?
We haven't voted on it yet.
Oh, okay, this is for them.
I'm going to
You
send
do,
it
send me a
tonight.
copy. I'll send it to Chris Perry.
If you
Send it
CC
tomorrow.
them.
Okay.
And should we
You'll send
send
it.
one to every single board member? Or just the executive?
I mean, I couldn't hurt.
Well, okay.
I don't know who's, yeah.
Give me 3 minutes of talking points, we'll go.
You just have to read our first paragraph,
Okay.
if you want.
I'll take it.
I am just,
Maybe Nick can go too.
for how much work I put into making things done right, and I don't try to stop projects. I'm not trying to, I gave up trying to stop High Speed Rail. I just want it to not affect this community. I don't want to stop filming. I don't want to stop Thousand Trails. It just needs to work. And to have,
Well, it's put in place, the reason SEQA exists is to make sure that things
that's
are
right.
done the way they're supposed to be
exactly.
done.
I'm not opposing the sustainability plan, but you're just like trampling all over this regulation. Yeah. Anyway, so if you
Well,
could, Tom, I would be really grateful, because I'm not going to be able to. So, anyway, I move that we submit the letter I drafted.
Yeah, that's what I'm general.
On the sustainability plan to the Board of Supervisors. And I appreciate the changes they made. They did a great job. I remember we met with them, and we didn't think they'd be able to get those changes done fast enough, but they
I mean,
did.
this whole thing is, yeah, I mean, it's being done so quickly. What's the rush? I mean, this is the most important thing they've ever done. It's the very first one. Why not spend the time and make sure it gets done? I don't know, but the original sustainability.
Well, apparently it had been in the works for a year and a half, but we didn't know about it till like 6
Well,
weeks ago.
and
Yeah, so it's less than 2
double down
months.
well, and double down on that, the group that was hired to do the outreach
Never even
contacted us. We contacted them, they said, basically, oh, well, it's all done, and,
Yeah.
that was it.
We're not getting paid anymore. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
so,
what they're trying to say.
well, I just, that I took from it, but, so, I mean, it's not even like there was an attempt to be made to get to me, but so we kind of accidentally become aware of something and have to give input on it, get up to speed and breakneck speed to be able to do anything.
It's an enormous amount of work on all this. And I haven't even read the new, there might be other bombs in the new thing, I don't know. It's 100, 200 something pages long.
We got a password before we read it.
Oh, awesome.
Was Cole re-altered?
Yes.
Had a chance to look at
It was changed substantially. The 3 dots, policy 3 or whatever. They no longer prohibit ministerial or discretionary development by certain timeframes. And they added the definition of development. So that's something. But there might be bombs elsewhere. I don't know. It might give me something.
asking for the discretionary development to be stopped.
Correct. Or ministerial also. They've eliminated that.
I think it did.
Yeah, well, we literally got that, I think it was on Tuesday. I mean, it's not even been a flippin' week.
Yeah. So they don't understand what the rush is. For them.
Well, that's what concerns me the most, because it's usually things like that.
And, Sheila Keel's an attorney. She's no this.
I think you're just trying to push everything together through at once, SEA, sustainability, tiny homes, community development. They're basically taking the sustainability proposal that they originally had and pushing it all together. They're gonna hit it all at once. And
it's too hard to keep up with.
And it's too hard to keep up with. They've got thousands of people to do this for them.
Yeah, but they're not even doing it well.
Well, I know they're not.
I mean,
They're government. They're not doing it well. They're government.
Well, I know, it's one thing if they want to push it through, make it all happen at once, the minimize what outside influences can do.
The government cannot
But you gotta do it
govern.
right.
They can only make trouble and rules and regulations that nobody can ever follow. Not even themselves. They're the worst offenders of Measure M or W, whatever it is that we're paying 2.5 cents per square foot for impermeability. impermeable surfaces. They're all pushing it on the voters, the taxpayers, the property owners, and basically our property rights are being taken away from us. What the Supreme Court just reiterated in a case that the Fifth Amendment is all powerful. But we have the state of California and other states taking away all our rights. And they're doing it at breakneck speed.
And nobody knows it.
Nobody knows because nobody can keep up with it. Nobody knows what Measure M or Measure W or sustainability or SEA is or anything except people that read a lot at night.
So, all right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Any discussion?
And I should add to the motion, send Tom to speak on our behalf. on this.
So, second on that? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, councilmember comments.
Oh, wait, I just
Oh,
a lot more.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. First of all, from Assemblyman Lackey, now is the time to apply for park facility grants from the state under Proposition 68. My own comment, it would be sure great if we could have that happen, and we got a joint use pool with the high school. So the state grants for parks, but I don't know. Is the Parks Department going to go after the grants for unincorporated areas, do you know?
Well, I was just, is the high school district, does the school district want a pool there? I think they're talking about granting for a tennis court.
They would
but
apply for a pool, and they'd be interested in joint use. They don't have any money.
They don't have any money. Do they have money to operate? That's the part with the pools. Everyone's a pool, but they're really expensive.
Well,
But I
15%
just-
of our park fee goes to maintenance, so there should be funding for that, but
Well, but staffing, but.
I don't disagree, I don't.
But anyway, so, I don't know, I know the high school,
Yeah.
the school district is up to something over there because they keep trying to arrange a tour, but I think it's tennis courts, I don't think it's a pool.
Oh, well,
Is it tennis
I'm
courts?
sure it's tennis courts, because that was part of it.
Tennis courts at Vasquez.
yeah.
Yeah, tennis court, it's
Yeah.
the next
Yeah, I
phase.
think
But
that's
it's
what
also, they also were looking at it based on cost, so, and if this, since they don't have money for tennis courts, if this community wanted something different, they'd let it know. There have been a lot of parents who've asked for pools. So, and the tennis court thing, now that we have the softball, that's like many, many years old, so people might have a different perspective if it's going to be joint use community pool. We don't have a pool here. We don't have a splash pad for kids in the park, so you don't go to this little, which they have at Lake LA. It's awesome. I love Lake LA.
Yeah, Lake LA wants a pool.
Oh.
They think we should
Yeah.
put a pool.
Well, they are in a lake in the park.
Yeah, I know, it's just filling out the water like usually.
Well, they'll say we're in a river, so. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's one thing. Okay, California Department of Food and Agriculture has scheduled a town hall meeting regarding the virulent Newcastle disease at 7:30 on Thursday, August 8th at Chimboli. Newcastle disease is a contagious, fatal viral disease affecting respiratory, nervous, and digestive systems of birds and poultry. The purpose is to be educational and for prevention efforts. Since February of 2019, all poultry in LA County, including Antelope Valley, has been under state quarantine.
So I'm hoping that we're going to hear that they're going to be pulling that, because there hasn't been any cases.
So that's what I asked, I go, is there some reason they're doing this? Because
it's
last I heard, there hadn't been a case since June
like
4th or
4th or
5th.
5th or something, something like that. And I think what's interesting is that, I think that people know, although I've seen lots of people that are ignoring it and just doing whatever.
Yeah,
but I know it is a big concern in our community.
I think
I would hope that soon it would be lifted, although it's kind of getting past the point where you would have chicks anyway.
Well, it's too late for the fairs.
Yes.
I don't know about the fair. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if there's a.
I was hoping that's what it would be.
I have no
But
idea.
the concerns I have, I wondered too if maybe they weren't making the pre-announcement, so people just started doing it. I don't know, maybe they're gonna announce it.
I think they had a meeting like this in Santa Clarita just last week though, and it seems like nothing earth-shaking came out of that. I don't know.
So maybe something good will happen.
I don't know if that's LA County that's not had a case, because Riverside, definitely.
No, since June. I think it's certainly as LA County, I think all of Southern California is not active.
I know people in Riverside that had it destroyed their whole chicken farm.
But that was earlier this year.
Yeah, maybe around February.
Since June. Yes, there were millions of birds killed in San Bernardino and Riverside. I didn't realize there were still such big commercial poultry growers. But Corona area and Chino, they had millions.
It's a bad thing because that, apparently, his farm can never be used for poultry again.
Oh, wow.
That gets into the soil and it's, it's done.
I didn't know that.
And there were some cases over in Victorville and Phelan and Hesperia.
It's not that far from us.
Which isn't very far at all, yeah. So.
Okay.
So then, now LA County Development Authority, I never heard of this department, is currently working with the Department of Regional Planning, Public Health, and Public Works to develop a habitability code enforcement program for rental units in the county. As part of the development process, they are conducting a rental tenant survey to learn more about a tenant experience with health and safety issues. They're hoping the public will take the survey. We don't have a lot, we have an apartment, so we could, I don't know if you want to post that. Anyway. The county's launched its safe parking RFP for 2019. The safe parking program seeks participation from property owners that can meet the requirements and will allow homeless or people who need safe parking to park on their property at night and thereby provide them with some level of safety. This is part of what we're going to talk about, I guess, with the framework. So that's, we've added that to the next agenda, right? Okay. Town Council submitted comments to the Regional Planning Commission regarding the modification of the Acton CSD that's being considered. Staff report said that McDonald's, Jack in the Box, and Shell have 20 years to remove their drive-through facilities. The letter submitted by the Town Council reiterated our position that we do not want these drive-throughs removed. We merely ask that they obtain CUPs so they'll be deemed conforming. Shelter Partners has requested that residents take their survey, read homeless, regarding homelessness in the Antelope Valley. I would announce that, sorry, okay. We've gotten the okay for a meeting on August 22nd regarding film CUPs with Chris Perry, who is Supervisor Barbara's deputy for Land Use and Public Works. We're looking forward to that. A resident notified us of a scam where people claiming to be Edison employees are contacting residents saying that their power is going to be shut off because their meter is incompatible and the property owner must make an immediate installment payment. This is a scam. If you get a phone call to make any payments, call Edison directly using the phone number on your bill, not on one they give you, because they will give you a false phone number. You call it. Okay. Then we were informed that a property where illegal dumping, a property that you notified them on, was reported in mid-July and has been cited for building and safety violations. And I think that's it.
We did get on the CSD, there was an email that came in from the county with the map of the Acton CSD.
Yes.
And it said,
We need to comment on.
please look at it, make sure it's correct. And if you want to change, discuss it with your neighboring CSD communities.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah. It's the same map on the GIS that we've always used. It's got the cutout where Lillian is there, and I would all say. It goes all the way across Angeles Forest Highway and down.
So does it change anything?
I don't think it changes anything. It looks exactly the same to me. But
I'll find it.
if you want to have a border dispute, apparently it's now available again.
Yeah.
We have several of them brewing, so I think they just let you know if you want to.
I have too many.
So I don't know, it was asking us to comment on that?
Only
I'll
if we
look at
wanted
it.
to change. I think it said only if we wanted to change.
But
I'll read it again, but I did that.
I didn't see that.
I think we should still give
Yeah, maybe we should say, yes, this is our boundary, we'd like to keep it the same. So maybe
So, I mean, I guess on that same note to discuss is there anything that we're aware of where there, assuming it was the same, let's start with that assumption, was there anything that we wanted to address? So assuming you look at it and say, hey, it looks the same as what it was before.
So let's look up the boundary email and just through a consensus.
Unless there are people on the fringes that may want to enter in or enter or exit.
Am I understanding that you're not making any recommendation?
Well, we're
or
gonna
changes of orders?
We're gonna review it first before.
I haven't even looked at it.
If you haven't looked at it, we don't know if it has, if what they're saying matches what we've been.
We're going to verify it's
Verify it
the
matches.
Nobody's asked us in the last 4 years to modify our border.
The borders were modified when it was established between Santa Clarita and the Antelope Valley plant.
Right.
And so they were correct at that time Yeah, and I haven't looked at them recently, there haven't been any changes.
Well, that's.
I don't know, I haven't,
We have to look
I
at
didn't
it.
even know there was an email on it, so.
On cursory glance, when I looked at it, it looked the same, but I didn't dig into, exact precise.
And it's not something you can zoom in and get it.
No, that's the problem too, it's like, here's a
It's
screenshot.
right off the, it's a screenshot right off the GIS.
It looks like the same map that's connected
Yes.
with our CSD.
Yes, like you said, there was nothing egregious like, whoa, we just lost, 20 square miles or something. Yeah. All right, so that was all the first ones. All right, councilmember comments. Okay.
I've just got a brief comment to make. I've been working with Oscar Gomez on the directional real estate signs that I've gotten complaints on. Oscar actually came out here last week and went to the GABAR meeting because Palmdale Lancaster is having some of the same issues. And so Oscar came to Acton. I gave him 3 or 4 sites and he agreed with me that the signs are in the road right-of-ways. And so he's contacted somebody from Public Works who will be getting his staff out here to handle the situation. So it sounds like it got to be kind of a big deal up in Lancaster.
A whole bunch of complaints, and I don't know, it took about 5 questions to Oscar to even clarify what he was talking about. That you can have directional signs saying a house is for sale a mile down this dirt road if you have permission from the property owner that the directional sign is on.
Or the road digger.
Well, no, you can't, you really can't put it in the right of way, but you can't, if there's a parcel on Crown Valley Road, the house for sale is really a mile up this way, you can put a sign there with an arrow pointing down there with the realtor's name, but there'll only be one, you can't put 5 on there, on that property, and you have to have the property owner's permission. So.
It's ridiculous. Nobody needs a directional sign to find properties listed for sale these days. We're all on the computer and it's a ridiculous thing. It's advertising the agents.
Oscar says that's a state law that they have to do that, so.
And nobody's getting permission from any property owner to put their signs up.
They were all over the town this weekend.
I know it.
More than I've ever seen, actually.
That's a good sign. That means houses are up in value and people can, we don't have
you
a
could have one
press.
listed
I
for 5
everybody's
signs.
bailing out because the county's
It's not too many for sale.
I love you, Chuck, you don't have to be kidding.
Whatever.
I know one agent that has 5 signs leading to one property.
With his picture and phone number on each
No,
one?
but nice big arrow on the top of his name.
I thought it would have his picture with real
Well,
estate.
maybe you should, I don't know. So that's in the
Well, thank you
works.
for
Taking care of that.
taking care of that.
I don't have
You know? All right, I got nothing. All right. All right, committee reports. All right, planning coordinating.
nothing.
Publicity.
Only the ATC.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Katie Hill will be at the ATC meeting in August. Katie Hill? Yeah.
Where is that?
That is held at the Portsville Library the last Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m.
And what is it?
It's the Association of Town Council, and I go every month. And it's always very, oh, and also, I'm sorry, the county is rolling out their new voting program. And I'm not saying the right words, I'm retired. But Donna Termier, with whom Chuck works, has offered to try to ask the voting group to come and give a presentation on how the new voting programs will work and where the voting places are going to be, and that will probably be in the month of September. And the county's trying very hard to make it possible for you to vote in a number of places for over a 2-week period. And so, 11 days. And then what I happen to like, although some people didn't like this idea, it's actually still a paper ballot system, that you do it and then you get it and you can double check it and then they count it.
Because that's safer, nobody can have
Yeah,
paper ballot.
exactly. That's something.
I'm happy to hear that. Because
Yeah, me too.
I've seen all these horror stories.
Berkeley has done
So
it,
you can
reports.
vote as many times as you want within 11 days.
Yeah.
No.
No, they lock you out, they have all the safeguards.
The registration, well, you have to come up with different names. You could say you're Ron Schaefer and Todd Weber, and his little
Jackie
boat.
Ayer.
Jackie Ayer.
And then I can't look, yeah. But,
Oh,
It's
okay.
probably not possible for them to come to every town council meeting, but they will be at the ARTC meeting. Hopefully, John is extending that, so I'll make sure everybody knows about it, because the ARTC meetings are open to the public, so anyone.
I'm kind of curious, because I know Katie Hill had sent me a grab to one meeting.
Oh, really?
And I've never seen it, she left early.
Yeah, I have to talk to her about her.
Well, if you guys invite them to come, I think they will come here because they'll show up at some of the other town council meetings.
Yeah, I kind of,
Well, maybe it's something we should,
Yeah,
especially
we can-
considering the Edison thing. Concept.
Yeah, that's
I don't
what
think
I-
it can really help us with that. It's more.
Well, she's
it's not gonna hurt.
Yeah.
She's federal, but
Yeah.
certainly Will
A letter
and
from
Mackey would be
Well,
really
but I would
good.
imagine even a letter from Ron, it's not, would not hurt anything if we could get something like that. All right. And it's an election or something.
Is it?
Okay, well, next year.
Oh,
Soon enough.
March.
Yeah, it'll be here. All right, publicity, nothing, yeah, nothing, good, all right. Finance?
No.
Okay. Community standards? It would be better.
Well, can we back up to quorum real quick?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
On meetings like today's, we really need,
Assigned in process.
To read the decorum?
I don't know, maybe
Want me to add to
the
start
deputy
comments?
is here, I mean, maybe we can try to come up with a little better method of keeping people.
What I'm thinking is maybe, what if we had people line up, so they feel like they can serialize rather than the random
Something?
hands? I think that the
Yes.
random hands becomes unruly, and then people get bored of waiting, and they just start jumping.
Maybe we need to assign, I don't know what the right term is, master of arms or whatever that goes and assigns people. Somebody with a little bit of authority, like.
Yeah, I kind of like Jeremy's idea. I mean, if you have a question on this topic, go ahead, line up right here, or whatever, you take your questions one at a time.
I think that'll keep the shouting
Yeah.
and stuff.
What I don't want to do is have them fill out cards.
Yeah.
That's a real damper.
And talking over each other, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, if we get them in a line, I think people won't feel the need. I feel like some people were just getting fed up with somebody either talking to them or whatever else, they wanted to get their thing heard, I get that, I understand. But maybe that'll help, so.
Well, I think a lot of people got spun off of social media.
Oh, I got stirred up, the
I
hot
mean,
guy, very stirred.
People texting my wife and calling me, and it's like, you know.
Well, if anybody looked at Nextdoor, it was.
So this was, you could have.
It was worse.
There's a
than
reason I
Facebook.
don't have a smartphone.
It's hard to know when these days are gonna happen.
Right.
No,
I mean, I would have never thought the tiny home thing, which was obviously never gonna happen here due to the community standards, the zoning, all of that stuff. And it never even said Acton on their website.
No, that's.
It just said North LA County.
No, but
so-
all it took was one, you get one person who says, hey, they're in escrow on that, and it's like, oh, well, this is done, like they're coming, it's being built, and then it's like a feeding frenzy, people just.
But you know what, I'll say, I don't mind every now and then this
Oh,
coming up,
this
so
is
that
good.
people
Right.
will understand what the code says, and what the general plan says, and what the process is.
Well, I understand our role too.
Exactly.
Because I think there's confusion on it too, where you have people going, why are you guys approving this? Like, really? When were we given that authority? This is gonna get really easy. We can.
Well, plus it was very interesting because Perry does have an office downtown Acton, right in Brady Watts Center. And so all of the people right around there, the Keller Williams and everybody else, and Mikey that has the DMV thing.
Yeah.
He's right in the middle between those two. So he's talking and telling people, so when it started all the rumors because he didn't just say it was veterans, he clearly said it was the homeless.
Oh, really?
And then after people started talking to him, he shifted and said, well, how about if we just do veterans? So that's the phone calls that I was getting, and that's why I let you know that I expected there to be a large crowd.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of the posts I think led with, let's have a standing room only thing at the town council. And
Yes.
Wow, okay.
Hey, I love that.
Yeah, no,
That's
that's great.
No, we just need a little better procedure.
Yeah, so, well, let's start with that then. I think next time we have a big issue, we'll get a full room. Let's make it better.
I think Aidin was a little freaked out.
He did really well.
He did really good.
So do you think we need to have our committee meeting for the
community standards slash decorum and.
Come up with a set of
better
procedures.
set of
I think it'd be a
procedures.
good idea.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I'll put that together.
I just thought it was interesting that he claimed he didn't know how all these rumors started. Well, he's the man that started them.
Well, in the website,
His website started them too.
Yeah,
Right.
because that's what it got sent around, and then once I went and looked at it, I was like, okay, well, I don't see Acton, but all the other check boxes, 29, tiny homes, this, that, and the other, it's like, well, that's how it got started, is because you have everything
but
but
San Jose Mercury
And
and.
29 homes is a very
very
specific
specific number.
But he claimed also that.
So there was someone in the neighborhood doing a survey for septic systems on a 9-acre parcel.
Near San Gabriel?
Yes.
By the fire station.
So I got,
Yes.
I got in the wrong place, so, okay.
No, that is what the rumor was going around town, and he apparently talked to a realtor. I know who owns that land, and, there was.
Yeah,
There's a lot of grant money out.
He was contributing to
They still have
the,
to fight the county for
well,
10 years.
and
But you got
obviously he
so
had no
much money
clue.
to throw out.
But that's different than zoning. They can throw money out,
Yeah.
but the zoning's the zoning, and now there's the new septic tank rules. Now, I don't think there's any way around those.
Tiny home, tiny septic.
What? I think they have those advanced things there, is what they call them. I think the state says you do, so. Or you can use rainwater. Rainwater's all you need.
The innovation that comes out of that tiny home thing is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, he's absolutely right. There's wonderful innovations that come out of that. And it's great, but it's.
You still need water lines and sewer lines,
Yeah,
except that many people in there.
On the septic, I'll say this, and the sustainability plan puts it, hits it really hard, gray water separation. And you know what, you could have black water here and get it pumped by a pumper once a month, and that would be fine. You literally could,
Yeah, it would reduce the
because
volume.
gray water does not contaminate groundwater to the extent. And if there's nothing, but you have to make that part of the plan. So,
Yeah, I don't know if somebody came and said that's what they're gonna do. I think the county would say no.
I would.
The Forest Service is starting to do that, though. They're getting rid of their old-fashioned pit toilets to just, I guess you'd call them, I don't know, cesspools or what. They're vaulted, and they send a pumper in to pump it out every week.
Yep.
Where they have access. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you could, because there's a big difference in gray water and black water, so.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna open that up. Trails, open space, anything? Oh, we already went through this. Okay. So bylaws. Anything?
We do have to talk about the election.
Yes.
That falls under
Okay,
the
cool.
bylaw.
Can you now go to the new business?
New business,
Okay.
okay.
All right, so, emergency spots, no chance of talking to Mike.
Well, this disaster resiliency, is that something you'd be interested in, with your law enforcement background?
Possibly.
Okay.
That's what you need.
Oh, Tom, before my husband passed away, I had been in contact with Mike Hughes because he knows about the trailer that's here at the Forest Service. And I was gonna go with him to take an inventory of it since it's in our Acton Town Council's possession. And we have no access to
You're
it.
talking about the circuit containers?
Yes.
Okay, so, there's one over at the community center. there's one
Right,
over
right.
Here, Cal has access to a piece of inventory, then that's his collaterals from what I understand.
Okay.
We have access to them, but it's basically because the fire department didn't want to take over service, so the sheriff's department did.
Okay.
So, and we talked to the volunteer coordinator to try to, and the fire coordinator to try to put a class in Aladulce for more interest, because we don't have the cert numbers to really field anything. And see if we get like new blood in there and get more, and it's a good class to go to anyway, just to, for your own house, basically, in your own neighborhood.
And they're offering them in the valley as well.
Yeah.
I took the class, it was awesome.
It's a good class.
Yeah.
I think we can talk, but primarily we need to tie in kind of a plan that we're worked on a little bit. Just kind of maybe tie it into the community awareness a little bit.
And I thought Mike expressed an interest to continue participating.
I kind of got that vibe too.
He was going to start, well, I'm not exactly sure what he was going to do, but he's been around. I've talked to him a few times in the last couple of months, because he pops in once in a while.
Who is this?
Mike Hughes. And he was gonna start a whole new organization, it sounded like, but I don't think he's no longer interested. So, I don't think he's gonna, I mean, he might be able to advise a little bit here and there.
Well,
And he said he was open to that, but he's not.
And I think Rob expressed that he would be interested.
Still interested?
Still interested in helping.
Well, maybe we can get enough of us together to make a little bit happen.
The Dulce Town Council does have a pretty active disaster dude on their board. I forget his name, but you could always get a hold of him. You guys need some guys. They have Rick Fox, which does all the radio communications. So they have a couple, like the ham radio group tied in with them, Serb, Cal, like it seems like they have like a few different facets of that attached. Then they all kind of coordinate and talk. So yeah, they have something that's working, but the problem being that the divider from Acton to Agua Dulce is that Santa Clarita CERT is Agua Dulce, and for you guys, it's Antelope Valley. So there's, even though you guys are much closer, it should be under the same umbrella.
We're not.
No, we're not.
We have our own radio, Acton Agua Dulce ham radio.
Right, that's Rick Fox.
And Leona Valley is offering a ham radio training class. I just didn't do those notes. So let's post that on the website, because you have to get certified to be a ham person.
Yeah, you do. I actually took the class here. I just got my license in May, my ham operator license.
That's
So
very cool.
I've been trying to be active with that group, but this is so
I
much
know my
fun.
husband wants to find out about that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, they, I don't know if they're gonna do it again locally, but like, there's different classes.
So the Morse code requirements no longer are.
No.
That's what kept those people out.
Yeah, it's not a requirement now for your technicians, which is like the first level, but it's something I want to learn eventually. It's good, because,
No, absolutely. Okay, so, beautification, eco dumping, I don't really have anything other than that. I'm reporting a bunch of different things as I come across stuff. I fire up the app. It seems to be, there was a large dumping of a bunch of refrigerators on Boiling Point and right by Crown Valley Community Church, probably 2 weeks ago. And so they're not there now. I reported it. I'm sure other people reported it, and they.
Probably not. Probably just you.
Yeah, probably just me, but whatever. Well, someone I saw a couple people say, "Hey, what's going on?" Because it like cropped up overnight. It was like all of a sudden there's one, and then there was like 3 more, and it was like growing. And then I've noticed there was some couches and some mattresses here as well today that I reported. But there's seems to be it's moved from dirt to a lot. It seems like there's more debris in the last couple of weeks, at least from what I'm seeing. So, Film Coalition.
We have the meeting on August 22nd.
That's where is that?
Is that, I don't know if it's here or there, actually.
Well, because
I don't remember.
there was something.
I don't think anything was ever decided on the place, was it?
We should ask for the
Yeah.
Lancaster Field Office.
Okay.
And is this going to include Chris Perry or?
Yes, Chris Perry and on the film CUPs. And there's no, I don't think anybody else is on it.
No.
I mean, obviously, if you and Donna are there, that would be awesome, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that the emails are going back and forth and just whenever it happens, we can be there.
I think it was 2 or 3, I don't remember, so I don't remember, but,
Okay.
I don't think we can, so.
Industrial aesthetics.
I'll touch base with Ruth and see if she's got any to report. She said she would let us know when she has
Yeah,
stuff to report.
she's usually pretty good about reaching out, so I guess there's not
And Patty Cobb was working a lot on that committee that we were with, and she
Yeah.
had a lot of nice things to say to that. That was very nice to say those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
It made a big difference what Ruthie did on the aesthetics, so.
Yes. Did a lot of good work. She's a mystic presence. Traffic safety. Safe routes to school.
I don't have anything.
Do you guys have any speeding areas? Because I made a new contact with a CHP guy that's the AV side.
Sierra Highway.
I mean, it's all Sierra Highway, but Avenue B divides it from Newhall CHP to Acton CHP.
Okay.
And the Newhall CHP, they have like a resident deputy CHP guy on the opposite side. And he's good. Like I can call him and we get stuff
stuff done, but I finally made a good contact with the APCHP that actually returns my phone calls, and for
I can only speak to where I see,
You're at.
which is like literally from Crown to Rugos, because there's no stop sign. Like,
Right.
once you hit it from there, it's just, and so, you know, it's the normal nonsense of people crossing double yellow. And
And apparently, they also get up a good head of speed between Santiago and Crown.
Yeah,
It
but
goes
then-
2
yeah.
lanes to 1 lane,
Yeah.
and sometimes it turns into 4 lanes. So,
But, yeah.
Yes, he's been actually like reaching out and saying, hey,
That's great.
where do you want me to enforce? Where do you want me to set up stuff?
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that stop sign on Crown Valley near the school has helped a lot, because there was a lot of speeding there.
Yeah.
That stop
Oh, yeah,
sign.
it just breaks it out. Then that's,
And last week, I don't know if you noticed, we had a couple of mortar cops out here. That was our Palmdale guys. They don't get any credit for that, but I brought up that, hey, I'm not getting help from CHP. So they came out and
Oh, tell them thank you very much.
they honestly, like, you know, the motor guys are awesome at that stuff.
They love that stuff.
Yeah, they like what takes me 2 years to go through a ticket book, they go in an afternoon, it's crazy.
And they know all that stuff up there.
That's cool.
When there's accidents on Angeles Forest Highway, Aliso Canyon turns into a nasty speedway because they're all coming back down trying to get to the 14. And about, I guess it was maybe about 2 weeks ago, there must have been something going on. And they're passing each other going down the Aliso Canyon trying to get to the freeway. And, you know, it's
Aliso Canyon is very
On
bad.
the pass.
So when
Because
accidents
my
happen
husband
now,
actually literally had
it's
to
the
turn
same
around and
CHP
go back.
that's
They
handling
have to,
it.
Yeah.
they have to handle an
Yeah.
accident.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can fill their
Yeah.
ticket books. I mean, there was.
It's a long way around.
Yeah.
My concern is early in the morning, all the trucks that go up to the mine on Aliso Canyon, because I come out of Y8 and they come flying through that.
Okay.
Yeah, they
The
fly.
trucks come flying?
They fly.
Oh,
yeah.
5
so-
a.m.,
Flying.
14, 15 trucks.
So all of that is subject to a CUP, okay? And they have requirements in their CUP, including things like jig brakes and stuff like that. So we have an opportunity to talk to the county about, because the county's the one who issues the CUP, that they're speeding. Because if the county chooses not to renew their CUP, they're out of business. And that company invited all of us to go, and I didn't go, because I had stuff going on. But supposedly he wants to be community friendly.
And one of the things he says is, if you have problems with the trucks, you let us know.
So maybe can somebody do, I didn't meet the guy, but
Is this the quarry in Aliso Canyon?
Yes.
Way up the dirt road
Yeah.
up there?
Aliso,
I think that's where they go.
Yeah.
And so,
Don't follow them, but.
has he got a CUP that's coming up for renewal at some point?
I think they just renewed it, but
That's
5 or
where it
6
was in the
years ago.
forest.
So-
Because it's in the forest, I'm pretty sure
But
it's
I
on
think it
Forest
also
Service
has a
land.
CUP because he came to the town council and wanted to expand his operations and asked for support. This is 10 years ago, before I went
Oh.
to Japan, so I thought there was a CUP, maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know, I didn't know it was there, and I was surprised it was up there, I just happened to
I thought
discover
it
it.
was in the,
I thought, yeah,
But I think he's in Forest Service land, but that doesn't,
Yeah.
I don't know what that
Then I
means, he
might
has
be
to get our
mistaken.
permission too, or
Yeah, I
what
don't
it is.
know.
It's on,
But-
yeah, it's on forest land.
So if you could you have that guy's contact information? I know Russ talked to him.
I don't.
I could ask,
No, no.
Russ would remember.
Yeah, I didn't go on the tour.
You didn't either. Russ went, but you didn't go.
Yeah, I'll talk to Russ.
Yeah.
Actually, Russ and I talked about it not too long ago when we were out, so.
Yeah, and then we can just reach out and ask him.
Yeah.
Now, there is one other traffic safety, and I just noticed this last week. I happened to picked up Aidin from cross country, and on Crown Valley, on Sierra Highway near Crown Valley, on Sierra Highway, both sides, there were trucks parked along the whole way, on both sides of Sierra Highway. And then there were 2 trucks that were parked right in the middle, in the, suicide lane. And the guys, I watched them, I turned around and watched to see what they did. They went on, they got out of their trucks and went into McDonald's. And so,
Jack in the Box, they park.
oh no, Jack in the Box, they went to Jack in the Box,
Yeah.
yeah, because it was there in front of 76. And I
They
thought,
park in the middle.
when a big truck parks there, it's like really hard when you're pulling out of any of those businesses to see anything.
Yep.
And I know they're not allowed to park in the suicide lane, but are they allowed to just park right on it's a truck stop, so they should be in the 76, not next to the 76. So, I don't know, if you guys ever see stuff like that, it makes it really bad visibility, low visibility or
Yeah,
whatever.
it was dangerous.
My
What time of day was that?
8?
In the morning?
8:30, whatever, 7 to 8:30, right?
Probably, because I think a lot of them go and fill up at the diesel or at the 72.
Maybe, but then they're just parked on Sierra
That's
Highway.
weird.
I mean-
Well, they've been kicked out of Antelope
I have
Woods.
pictures.
They run into the Jack in the
Haulers,
Oh.
like they call it.
Everything.
And this one, yeah, the one I saw, I have a picture, it was, had a lot of, I don't know, it was like a big hauler or something, but it wasn't solid and it wasn't a dirt hauler.
So apparently they're not trying to go into the 76 station, they're just stopping to get food, so they're just stopping in the middle of the Sierra Highway.
Because it's easy.
They don't have
For
to
them.
pull over or something.
Well, I pulled by, I said, I told the guy, I said, I drove by, I was so mad, I said, don't park your car here, it makes it hard to see. He goes, who are you? And I'm like, next time you do this, I'm gonna call the sheriff's department. He goes, you go ahead. And I'm like, oh, I have so much juice. Wow. I was just, it was very dangerous.
It
Hard to
is
see.
dangerous, I was trying to.
So I know it's silly, but I was just.
Not silly.
No, it's
Like,
not.
silly when someone gets in a traffic accident.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be forbidden.
I tried to get out of Jack in the Box one day when there was a guy in the middle and was like, I ended up getting illegal.
Doing something.
I couldn't get out. Can't see.
Bad. Anyway, so that's,
High-speed rail.
I don't have anything. She's.
There was something about Palmdale, there being something in the
Tonight.
Palmdale station. Yeah, that's right, it was tonight.
yeah,
So I was like, there was some reason I was like,
they did that on purpose.
yeah, I actually laughed, because that's actually the first thought, I was like, I know why they put it on Monday night.
Yeah.
So the people will be there.
Yeah, so, and there seemed to be, on the stuff I saw, at least on social media, there were lots of comments on, why were you talking about it? It's, you know.
It's not dead.
Yeah, well, I know it's not, yeah, I get that, but a lot of the commentary was like, they've only said they were gonna do X, Y, and Z up north, why are we even talking about it here? And I think that's the problem, is there's this misconception that it's completely dead.
Even though he said he was abandoning the project back in January.
No, yeah, except for the problem is they're going forward with the environmental assessments. So the high-speed rail, 2 days ago, got a letter from a group of rural residents addressing CEQA compliance and the fact that you cannot, when you do a CEQA analysis, you're supposed to know what the existing situation is, and that way you assess the impacts on the existing situation, and the decision makers decide what needs to be mitigated. And this letter pointed out that since they don't know when high-speed rail will be built, and since the SCAG has said that there will be 25% growth rate in our area just in the next 20 years, that if they use today's situation for their baseline environmental, it will be giving they will understate substantially the actual environmental impacts. And CEQA, there were recent changes to CEQA just literally in the last 6 months that allow you to change the baseline. But you can only do that if you have what they call substantial evidence, which is a term for whatever, legal stuff, of what that baseline is. So you have to have it nailed down. You have to know what that baseline is. But since they don't even know when they're going to build this, they can't possibly project, even using SCAG's data, what it's going to be. So anything they do on these environmental assessments are going to be completely violate CEQA, and they will not withstand legal challenge. So that letter was sent the other day. And so just to get that conversation rolling. But the problem is they're still going forward with the environmental impact reports, and this is, when they draw the line, it's not changeable, even if it's in 50 years. And so what I'm fighting for, and what I know we as a council fought for, is if you can't get it out of Acton, it needs to go underground. And the route they've got, and they can drive it 200 feet deeper, and it would be less impactful for wells, and it would be completely underground and better for everybody. So that assessment, that draft DIR is supposed to be coming out sometime in the next 8 months. Now, there are strings attached. Okay, so nobody in California wants to give the feds their money back for high-speed rail.
Yeah.
But they have to meet certain requirements, and by December 2022, they have to have all of their environmental analyses done, okay? And if they're not, then they have to give all that money back. That's one of the 3 things that they have to meet. So that's why they're pushing to get these things done. So this letter also pointed out that we all know that the only reason you're going forward on this impact analysis is not because you want to actually assess impacts, you just want to avoid payment, and that's, you know, twist sequel beyond words, and that's something I will bring up with Ms. Hill. At any rate, so please get the word out to the world that the battle is as big now as it has ever been. And so, anyway, on that.
No, yeah, it strikes me as, you know, frustrating because there is this ignorance that, you know, it's dead, why are we talking about this? Like, well, no,
It's not dead. Yeah,
not quite dead yet.
And then the other thing is, when I was doing research on this other stuff, that there is a movement afoot within the state government to sort of cannibalize Prop 1A funds and use it for the projects in San Francisco and in Los Angeles, what they call the bookend projects, electrification in San Francisco, improving transportation in Los Angeles. And a huge part of that is to double track the Amtrak all throughout Acton. They've already double tracked it partly in Acton. And this is something we talked about a long time ago. Metro came and said, well, what if we did this? But they said they'd come back to us when it went, you know, rolled out for the plan. They're rolling out for the plan. We haven't heard from them. And at a minimum, you know, we talked about things like putting in quiet zones, right? If they're going to do that. So I'm bringing this up because I think we need to reach out to the Metro people and ask them to come back. Because if they've already started their environmental assessment and their scoping, we need to participate.
There was something in the news recently too about between, was it Palmdale and, I don't know, San Cruz or LA, but increasing, like this was like in the last week, I wish I would have saved the link, but that there's something like very imminent that they're doing with Metro.
So it might be the double tracking thing?
It might be, I didn't get into it, but there was something that was.
Well, shouldn't they have come to us? Wouldn't they come
Well,
to us?
what he's talking about is there's a presentation about the whole idea of increasing capacity or really speeding up travel in that route before the North County Transportation Coalition. That's what he has, and it fell into this, a fight involving Lancaster and Palmdale and the county about whether the money for that should instead be put to widening the 14 freeway between Palmdale and Santa Cruz. So
that's gone nowhere.
No, Caltrans is looking at that idea.
No, I mean the train thing, the idea of enhancing what you were.
Yeah, no, I mean this is
that was that whole thing. That was what it was all about.
But it got pulled down because of freeway instead, or
no,
oh,
no. That was a kind of a thing. Because we should take money away from MetroLink and give it to the Caltrans to widen the 14 in that direction. And then they said, well, we got money for both, and Caltrans is already working on it, and so.
Well,
which struck me, the only reason why it struck me is frustrating and weird, because like, well, that comes through here. Like it's one of those things, it's like, we're only talking about the bookends, but ignore everybody in between, we don't care about that. So, yeah, that's why I thought, well, weird, why would, yeah, well, no, I shouldn't say that. But
now they have money from Prop 1A, potentially.
Well, and that's why I'm wondering if that might be why they say they have money from both.
See, 1A was already, well, they had money to do the studies for that. The 1A money was always going to go, or had been for a long time. That was back in Mike Antonovic's time when he said, oh, we should have money for improving the North County MetroLink. But you can ask those guys to come and tell you what they're up to.
I think we're going to have to do that.
One of the problems is that Newhall Tunnel, because that was built 140 years ago, and it's one track, and I don't know how they ever.
There's no internet inside that tunnel either.
There's nothing inside that tunnel. Last time I was there, it was this.
No.
That's right.
Yeah, you're completely cut off from the world.
Jeez.
It's like going back to 1970.
Right.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Or even 2000.
I come out wearing bell bottoms.
Right.
So I will reach out to them and invite them back.
So, all right, new business, election.
Yes. We need to
Call
name a committee.
Okay.
And I believe since Tom, myself, and Troy have to run,
Can't be on the committee.
we can't be on the committee.
So-
Looking at the two ladies at the end of the
Okay.
day.
You
Will you be on the committee?
Am I allowed to be?
I think you can be.
Sure. Yes, completely.
So it's Pam, Jackie, and Jeremiah.
Yep.
So Jeremiah named.
Yeah, I've never done this before. How do we?
Hey, good news.
Kelly can tell us what to do.
There's
You just can't do
a,
There's a
it.
procedure, yeah.
there's
Kelly
several
can tell us
documents
what
with
to
guidelines in it that we have.
Yes, your big thing is that it needs to be announced. You need to look at all the different dates. And gosh, I think I have my old dates.
It has to be posted soon?
Yeah, it needs to be posted in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
In the newspaper, and then you'll put the applications around, you'll tell people where you put the applications, put them around town.
We're gonna need to figure out a polling
Website.
place, because there is no election here in November.
Well, the polling place has always been the.
Put the Hedgecock Hall.
Only because there's elections going on, there won't be.
Well, it's separate from the.
No, I understand that, but Hedgecock is always a polling place, so they've made
Right.
it, they might not.
Well,
make
you'll
it-
know that
Yeah, we have
in
to-
September, because you'll set the date, probably towards the middle of September, that all applications have to be in. And if it's like it's been in the last 3 elections,
Since 2015, there hasn't been.
we won't have an election because we won't have enough people.
Well, if Hedgecock Hall isn't available, then maybe the library might be available.
The library, the community center, yes.
Yeah, we got some.
Okay, yeah, you got time.
Okay, so it sounds like the first point of order is to figure out what the date is that we need to get this started.
Yeah.
So, really good.
And then
Yeah, because I think our bylaws are kind of,
Bylaws don't have anything written in them.
okay, so then we can just, it'll just be the first Tuesday of November no matter what, right?
It
Or
always-
second Tuesday or whatever it is, okay, all right.
All right.
So I have some old business or unfinished
Yes,
business.
so,
But we have to get it posted in the country journal. and
yes,
get
that's when you figure out.
And I don't
applications
understand.
around town then.
So those are the
Yeah,
first
it's
two.
usually by the middle of the month, of this month,
Of August?
of
Yeah,
August.
we got-
Oh.
Mid-August.
Okay.
And then, when was the deadline for application was basically the middle of September.
So they have a month. Okay.
All right.
And we have,
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna write the letter. And then,